Hello, I'm Eagle. Eagle Gardens. Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram. And this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 373.5. The wormhole. Smiley's Gardens is in the house. Just taking that quick break before it gets on the air. But how you guys doing tonight? I'm glad hopefully lots of you are coming back. My chat here in Eyes View. What's up, Canna Trooper, Jason Eyestone? Cheers to you. Justice Mick, Australian Gone. Cheers to you guys. Chad Westport, tons of respect to you, my friend. Justin Station, how you doing? Oh, I need to get out of top chat right away. Right away. There we go. Live chat. Red Pill. What's up? Mr. Jack Greenstock popping in. Cheers to all. What's up, Jack?
Not much. How you doing?
Jack, don't ask me how I didn't fucking remember that your anniversary was 420 or 420. I mean, when you said that, I was like, God, how did I fucking forget his anniversary was 420?
You know, I'm not the only one. There's like a bunch of people who's got that as their anniversary. But it is my 1 year. I am very much looking forward to celebrating with Lady Greenstock, getting up and going to see Sungrown 707, Aaron the Grower, Ali Noble. Hopefully, I haven't confirmed with Ali yet. A bunch of friends in Humboldt. It's gonna be awesome, man.
That's awesome.
Might even call in from the car on 420.
That'd be fun. There's some fun folks coming 420, 420.
Mendo Dope will be there. Shit. That'd be my ultimate goal right there, to come across, even though I just sat there silently and hung out with them for a bit. I'm not afraid to admit it. I got a man crush on those guys. Fuck it. They're badass, man.
They're cool as shit. What's going on, Jack?
Cheers, Smiley.
What's up,
man?
I
love my life. I'm very happy with everything I've got. I'm very, very happy with where I'm at. But
I hope so. You're coming up on your 1 year.
Yeah, hell yeah. Life's good. Not to quote Dave Ramsey, but it's like people ask him how he's doing, and he'll say better than I should be, or something like that. Yeah. I agree. It's just I feel very fortunate, very lucky, and blessed to have everything I do, the people in my life, including you two.
Yeah, man. Same here, dude. Always blessed.
You in my journey as well.
Always blessed.
I want to give a shout out to a musician who I like, who recently passed. I don't think, maybe he's been mentioned recently on the show, but DMX.
What? I can't even do it. I got a cold. He's famous for that line. What?
He would just, oh man, I listened to, the reason I'm probably still up and the reason I had so much energy today was I knew that he passed a few days ago, and I was a fan of his music as a young man, I guess. Listened to a lot of it, and I was kind of feeling a little tired between shifts today at work, and I put on a little DMX, X Gonna Give It To You, and I swear it was like drinking 3 cups of coffee. My fucking heart started bumping 20, 50, fucking I don't know how many more beats per minute faster, but that just X Gonna Give It To You. He's just fucking, the beats are hard, and he just goes real hard in on these songs. And I was listening to a little bit of that before the show, and I'm still you see if you saw my hands over here, I'm
spider on my microphone. Fucker. You see him?
I'm not necessarily. Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I do it.
Oh, I do see him.
Freaked me out, man. He climbed around this thing. Dickhead. I like squishing him though.
Yeah, I never know what to do.
Yeah, I'm not so sure how I feel about. From what I understand, it was a DMX salute around the house today, and I'm not. I don't know if I'm glad I missed that or what. 'Cause it would have been kind of funny, but when I got home, everybody was like hoarse from screaming and allegedly barking, DMX barking all
They
day.
said, unsurprisingly, his streams are up like 1,000% or something on Spotify, 987% or something crazy, and rising. And when any artist passed, I mean, obviously they get a lot more recognition. But to be honest, I really only like probably 2 or 3 songs, like "Where the Hood At," "X Gonna Give It to You," and "Rough Riders Anthem" are the big 3 for me. They're just like kind of like pump up. I don't know, something about it, just like gets you going. What are you smoking on,
Oh,
Smiley?
you put. I
So
didn't
you
put you
said
call
Tuscadero,
by
right?
name.
Lexi on blast. Why is it on blast? On blast is a bad thing, isn't it? Or am I
Lexi, hop
just
in
naive
and
to
defend
this?
yourself.
Am I
I'm
naive to this mumbo jumbo these kids speak?
At least I'm not the only one guilty of having to decode once in a while.
When you think you've got it
That's just-
decoded, you'll get even more lost.
Yeah. Then they tell you wrong things, and then you go around thinking WAP means something different.
Jeez.
Saying it
You
at
did-
inappropriate
you don't-
times and stuff, it's not cool.
Oh, you don't know how many times I went on a little rant about the kids talking about dabbing. Fucking, I'm like, I didn't know there was a difference. I thought, what you fuckers know about that? You know what I mean? What the hell are you talking about shit like that for? They're like, I didn't know about the dance. So every time they reference, dab, I was like, what the, I kept, it took me forever to catch on that it was actually a dance and not dabs.
The funniest one I've ever heard that was a mix up like that was somebody told their pastor at their church that WAP meant worship and praise. So he got up there and was like, "All right, everybody, let's WAP." You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, yeah, that'd probably be the worst one right there.
That's funny. You know what I gotta say? The other night when you two were talking about cars, it was actually super refreshing. I know that like the wormhole, we don't always talk about cannabis or anything super on a specific topic, but you guys were just talking about like fixing Eagle's car and whether it could make it and like what the cost would be, and like getting it fixed versus the cost of having a payment. I really like that kind of discussion. It was cool, and Johnny was just kind of chilling, smoking, like I should probably be doing over here. But it made me actually reach out to my grandpa because him and I used to restore vehicles together, like super old, like 1935, 45 Mercury Sportsman.
Were they like wood, like the old wood ones? Where the
Yep, wood body.
or stuff? Yeah, that's cool, man. There's a guy that used to come around selling tools, and he's kind of an eccentric guy, I guess. He's a good guy. He just was, you know what I mean. But one of his hobbies, dude, like this is what he would do is rip. He would find like 30s and those old pickups. I'm not sure I'm right on the era, but they used to make the cab or the driver compartment was all wood, like the whole where it was, and he'll restore all that wood and stuff. And I mean, they were absolutely beautiful when he was done with them. You know what I mean? It was amazing what he was doing.
They're
Really
super
cool.
popular here in California because the wood lasts. It holds up well in this kind of weather, I guess. So you see them all over here. And maybe there's just a lot of collectors out here, but when my grandpa and I finished restoring it, he actually brought it out here and sold it at auction. It was like one of 3 in the world and like one of 1 that was 100% original. We went to like crazy lengths, like driving all over the country. Like he bought like one that was like buried. One of the pieces is like in somebody's like backyard farm type thing. Had to get like the doors reinforced to hold the weight of the wood, but it was all with like the original materials and everything. But it was just a crazy, beautiful car. It was a 1943 Mercury Sportsman, and white wall tires, just beautiful, man. Like you said, that all wood finish is. They don't make cars like that anymore. I'll say that. Unless you go to like Cuba, where they got the embargo and they still got cars like that old, kept up really good shape.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like some of that stuff's cool. It's just a lot of work and needing the space and time. It's all. I mean, it's so much time. Sit there
Yep.
sanding stuff like that. Wood, like all that woodwork and stuff. That's just time.
The radiator, I just took a screwdriver, literally had to like hammer and screwdriver and just make everything perfectly flat. And there's just like a bunch of dings and all old and bent up. Then you spray paint it and you sand it down and everything looks brand new when you're all done. But like you said, like he'd have me doing a lot of the grunt work where he was doing most of the technical stuff. But I definitely learned a lot. But it's unfortunate because 1930s and 40s cars don't translate at all to today. So like my Mini Cooper I had, and now that I have a Tesla, like I'm not working on either of those. And kind of like you, I'm actually kind of happy. I'd rather just pay somebody else to fucking do it at this point in my life. I have other shit going on, and it's physically grueling, uh, oily labor. And with Teslas, thankfully not so much, but it's techie shit that I'm not qualified to do. So let somebody else handle it if and when it ever has an issue.
Teslas, they don't really even give you the ability to work on them. Really, you have to be
No,
factory trained and programmed and all that, and have all the access codes. A lot of the dealerships were doing that shit right as I was getting out, which kind of sucked because you'd have to fucking pay a yearly subscription to have Ford's data. You know what I'm saying? And then you could work on Fords, right? And have you had to pay their tool too. And then you'd have to buy a General Motors tool and pay their subscription, to work on GM and Ford and Chrysler. You'd have the third one there. So now if you want to work on any other ones, you know what I'm saying, you're paying the fucking subscription every time. So if you wanted to be a shop that worked on all vehicles, you were going to go broke trying to keep the equipment you needed to do it, really, to do it right anyway. Should say.
well, you're totally right. Like, because if I took the lid off of, I still own Mini Cooper. My wife drives it now. And if you take the lid off and there's like a seal, and it basically like voids your warranty if you start working on certain parts of the engine. So you have to take it to either Mini Cooper themselves, which is BMW, or a certified mechanic, which thankfully I live walking distance from one. So I was lucky, but they are a European car specific, so they happen to have just a few licenses instead of doing, like you said, having to pay every year for all the data from everybody.
Yeah. But half that shit's all programming now, Jack. It's all plug and play fucking computer pieces, basically. The mess. Here's the fucked up part. We used to switch shit out like I don't know. It was just kind of a diagnostic technique. If you really, because sometimes you really couldn't get right down to the fucking problem. But if you knew where it was, you could kind of isolate it. Then be like, wow, we got a similar car here. Let's just fucking swap that part out a minute and see if it fixes it. And then we know, you know what I mean? So sometimes it came down to that. I'm not saying it was always, but sometimes you just wouldn't fucking know otherwise. And now the way that would work, like say it was a speedometer, if we pulled one out of a car and you were to put it in a different car, it wouldn't work because the VIN numbers wouldn't match, and it would have a different programming. And not only would it not work, you wouldn't be able to pull it back out of that car and put it in the original car because it would set a lock code in that part. So now if you tried to do that as a mechanic, you'd be buying 2 of them fucking parts because it would fuck up the one that you tried switching. You wouldn't be able to put it back in the other car. And I'm like, holy shit, man, that's just their way of, reselling. Reselling parts.
That's some shit. My dad's best friend was a person who had a machine shop, and he could do the CNC machining, and he'd make parts for people's cars when they break. And he said a $30,000 car, typical you'd see on the road, if you bought it piece by piece, would be a $300,000 plus car, because they sell the parts for such a high rate. So that's how he was able to make a living, was basically selling the parts at a little bit cheaper to people. And he could CNC machine basically any piece that you needed. Cheers, Johnny. Welcome in, buddy.
Hey.
One thing I wanted to say before was, before I really let Johnny introduce himself, was on the car topic. The thing that's cool about Tesla in California is most cars out here need to get smog checked every so often, but because it's zero emissions, you never have to fucking go through smog. Welcome, Johnny. Now that we can
How's
see
it
you.
going? Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Everything kind of went blank on me for a second. It's really weird. Did that happen on your end too? Okay. Thought that was kind of strange. The only thing I could see was me.
We're glad
How's
you're
it going,
here.
Jack? Good to see you. Great show tonight. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Hemp with GG was a cool dude.
I'm amazed at how much information he's got up underneath his head at the short amount of time that he's been involved with this. That's just
Right.
kind of like he's stepped into the kind of like the cannabis race car along with
Eagles talked about it a lot. He said he's like kind of jealous of these guys starting off now because all this information at their fingertips. If you step into the right community, if you found Cocoa for Cannabis, there's a lot of really good, helpful, open-minded people. You saw like he had the experience with Reddit. People were assholes. Everyone was just pushing their own way, making them feel like shit for probably a smaller harvest. And he goes over to a nicer community where people are open-minded, and even though they have one focus in mind, that their person who runs the website, he has his way of doing things that he teaches people how to do, but they're also accepting of other methods and grow styles. So I'm happy that he found a place in that community over there. And
the community makes the community makes a difference. It really does.
100%.
That's why whenever I see shit going on inside the chat that doesn't look right, I always, I'd rather see everybody grooving in the same way instead of mosh pit. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you on that. Sometimes I'm guilty of not watching the chat closely enough. Like I might be doing other shit and I don't see like what started, so I have to scroll up and try and figure out what the fuck is actually even going on.
All right,
That's
who's
kind of
going in
placement.
timeout? Who's going in timeout?
Right. Usually it's just like, guys, cool.
No, it's not about timeout. I don't even like that. It's about just making people think about what they're saying.
Making everyone feel welcome. Everyone's just got to feel welcome. Like even if there's a disagreement, just know that everyone's idea is welcome here. Right. For the most part.
Yes, exactly. It's all just a learning platform, and we're all sponges picking up our little pieces here and there.
You can do it however you want. Just know that my way is the right way.
Oh, you see, now that's the problem, right? I love that. That's good. Yeah. So
I almost thought you were the American one there for a second.
Is that right?
He loves saying stuff like that, and he like jokingly he says it like sarcastically, but with that accent and just being disembodied, only being a voice. He comes across, he's joking, but he's kind of implying that he's like doing things the right way.
No, he's doing things the only way.
He's like, you guys can do it any way you want, but just do it my way because it's the best. Like he'll say.
Right.
Makes me play the Tao song just to see if he appears.
Yeah,
he was
summon
in the
the Tao
earlier,
Tao.
wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
I saw him.
Yeah, he was there.
We got 3 or 4 minutes till a 20, so I think by that time, if a Tao Tao is broken out, he might, it's like if you say Beetlejuice 3 times.
I'll have to pack up my Amy Aces and be prepared for it.
Oh man, I got some Amy Aces that I'm waiting to get the results of the sex test back on, so I could start transplanting my ladies up.
Oh man, I got
Yeah.
some Jack Skellingtons that I got in the.
I'm excited
Right.
for that. I'm really excited for that
That-
project. And to see
Yeah,
what you
this is
find.
really exciting to me too. I'm not really involved in it, but it's exciting to me. You know what I'm saying?
That's the best part. We're watching from the
Well,
sidelines.
what I'm
cheering on.
saying is, as far as getting the beans wet and doing the work, that's what I'm saying. I'm not involved in that part, but it's just too exciting for me. It really is.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a cool deal.
So Eagle, I saw you got the Colombian wet. Did you do any of the Jack
Did.
Skellington as well?
I pass all the jacks to Mr. Smiley.
I'm
Big
playing the
Jack.
role of Jack Skellington. Eagle will be playing the role of Colombian.
So now, how
Ta-ta.
are you guys
Ta-ta.
going about that again? Because I was trying to bring that up in my head again, and it just so
Pop it
you
and see
guys
what they got.
you're gonna look for the badass dude and the badass chick of the bunch,
Of both, yeah. Eagle's gonna look for a dude and a girl, and I'm gonna look for a dude and a girl.
and then are you guys gonna smack those together?
I didn't think so. I think we were just
Oh,
gonna
okay.
pick one.
No, I see. I don't understand breeding really.
It's all open to interpretation.
I'm
And
Showed a lot of
I'm
weight.
very rookie at that crap.
Well, I think this is pretty much how it's working out. There's no set plan as of yet. We're just seeing how Mother Nature folds out and to see what we get.
Right.
And then as we decide what we get, we kind of playing it from there. He's got the better looking female, obviously. We probably go with her. You know, if he's got a nice looking male, we're gonna have to see what cards we're dealt with. You know, and so I think that's the only fair way to go versus to just say, you know, this is the plan.
Yeah, that was the part I was
Play-
I
play by
didn't
ear,
quite.
see how it goes.
you gotta let Mother Nature do its thing. Because if you say I'm gonna do this, gonna do that, then she'll throw you a curveball, give you all males on one end or all females on the other end or some crazy shit like that.
Well, that's what
I would say
Eagle before too. Like I didn't. There were 15 seeds, and I dropped 6 here, and I'm 6 at the barn or the other place, and that leaves 3 left. But I've never had good luck if I pop all the seeds. I don't know why or what the deal is.
I never do that.
I
never
always
do
have
that.
like 1 or 2 backup. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just in case, like it's always in my head. Like I don't know, maybe I fucked something up and all of them fucking die all at once because I've had that before. That's why I don't do it.
yeah, like something in your germination process might have gone wrong, or maybe there was something wrong with the seeds. But then you're always gonna think like, well, what the fuck did I do if you did it all at once?
Yeah.
I've had
The
that
one-
happen before too, where they all came up and then they just died. You know,
So
it
yeah,
was
weird
kind
shit
of
happens.
weird how
It's
that
like
happened.
having at least a little
Yeah.
backup. You know what I mean? Another shot at it, another chance.
I'll say
I
this:
keep
if
a
you
couple back usually
Oh.
just for, you know, backup reasons in the long run, but not in case, you know, those don't pop. I usually have a great germination rate. I just keep the back ones for just hoarding purposes, basically, you know, for the library. And then, you know, I like you say, a couple, you know, 2. I figure if I keep 2, and when I, you know, if I lose that strain somewhere down the road or I want to try to bring that one back, I got a 50-50 chance. 50-50 chance. That's pretty good in my book. Of getting a female at
Opportunity.
least bringing back
Yes.
one. Yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah.
keep a couple just, you know, reference. Should have. Yeah. Germination usually I've had pretty good.
So that
I keep like a 5-pack, but maybe I'm a hoarder. 2, I'm nervous. I'd fucking have 1 pop and it end up being a male, and it'd be like, ah, fuck, wasn't that what I was hoping for, you know? But
See, I think it would. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. See, it'd be more that way, to be honest with you, Jack, more than versus like them coming up and like fizzling out. I've needed them backups for the all male things. I know we've talked about this. We talked about this earlier. You know, you said the odds are almost always in favor of the female. You know what I mean? The males just kind of sprinkled in there. But I have popped many a packs where I've got males across the board. 5 out of 5. Boom. All guys. All guys.
You did it at the wrong temperature.
Videos.
You did it.
I think 5 is just too small of a sample size.
I don't think
personally.
germination counts.
I would
Conception, I think that.
But regardless of that, I think if you popped 500, you'd see more of a true idea of what that ratio. Like if you talk to that breeder when you got a 5-pack and they were all males and said like, hey, what is your typical ratio of male to female? I would guess that it's not 100% male. I don't think it's a problem with the seeds. If other people have gotten them, grown them out, it just might have been there's a thing called gambler's fallacy where you could pick red.
It's happened to me too. I mean, I've popped the seeds and they all came out male. As a matter of fact, that happened here just recently, where every one of them came up male, and it was time for me to thin house, and I said, well, there's some males over here. You guys gotta go.
You remember what temperature it was at, Johnny, when you?
That was during the winter time, so it was cool.
See, might be cold weather.
But my temperatures normally inside my grow room, they stay above 75.
How many seeds did you pop? In the case that was all male.
In that case, it was 3 out of 3. Because I normally, when I do my seeds, because of my size of my operation, I only do 3 at a time, because if I do more than that, I'll be overpopulating myself to the point where I don't know what I'm doing.
I feel that. There was a time where I popped 15 seeds from a breeder, and I got 12 or 13 males. So in that case, if I had only popped 5 plus 3, like yours plus your packs equal, 8 of them could have been male, and those last 2 in a 10-pack could have been the females. But in this case, I had a 15 out of like a 25-pack. And so if you pop enough, I think you'll ultimately find females, but the ratio might just not always be here.
Those out of the same batch, though, I'd have to wonder. You know what I mean? Same batch. But
the one thing about
see,
males,
I would rather. I don't. The only reason I don't like your analogy, Jack, mainly, is because the way you lay it out there is basically I got the buckshot of bad luck.
I don't even think it's like bad of luck. A 5-pack, like I've run 5-packs and had that happen a couple times. Like you're flipping a coin. If you flip enough coins, how many seeds have you popped? You've grown over 300 varieties. Think about how many 5-packs you popped. If you flip a coin 5 times in a row, 300 times over, eventually you're going to have one go heads, 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 heads. 5 times in a row. Statistically, it's pretty low probability, but I think it's definitely a possibility. I mean, you had it happen, right? A lot of people have had it happen.
But I think the difference there, I think, is just the strains, to where we're talking about in your comparison originally, a batch, you know what I mean, dropping 500 out of the same batch versus 500 or 300 strains. I think those odds are, But,
how about in a theory, how about when the seeds are being created, if there was undue stress of any sort to the plant while it was producing the seeds, would that cause, do you think, some kind of stress within the thinking of the seed, of how it would propagate itself?
It may impact how it propagates, but I don't think it'll impact whether it's a male or a female. I think the pollen, when it has let go from the male, it's either an X or Y. So it's either going to be
Okay.
a female or a male when it hits the. That's how Mr. Soul has always explained it. He's a lot smarter than I am. He has a nuclear physics degree and he's read in all the papers. I have to trust him on this one. Rick's a very smart guy. I trust him when he says that kind of stuff, and I've tried to look into it. And if you look into any other breeding of any other plant, the pollen, it's either an X or a Y, and plants that can produce male and female. So
Well, the reason I kind of came up with that idea was because if you have an outdoor plant and it's grown outdoor, the seeds are going to want to be grown outdoor. You know what I'm saying? So,
I mean, my buddies, he grew his outdoor plants, vegan doja. He sent them to me. I grew them indoor, and they grew just fine. They actually grew great.
well, sure, I know, but I've heard that theory been put out there that an outside plant would rather grow in the outside in the elements that it was actually created. You know?
I could see it. Like if you got like some endo dope seeds, I'm sure they'll fucking grow great outdoors. But I don't think that means they're gonna grow bad indoor.
Well, no, I'm not saying that they're not going to grow good inside. They would just be optimally primed in that atmosphere, is what I'm saying. Theoretically, you know.
Then I'd wonder if it would only be primed for outdoor where they are at. You know, it would be acclimated to like Mendo or that specific type of climate.
Well, Eagle
So
put something
would
out
that
there
to
the
be
other day
say,
about their bars, different regions. So, right, Eagle? You kind of.
well, is that to say though, a seed that are bred in, say, a hydroponic method, grown and seeded out in a hydroponic method, are only gonna be able to survive in a hydroponic medium there.
Well, not necessarily survive, but thrive.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that's the case.
I was just wondering if there would be any kind of like mussels have memory.
Muscle memory.
What's up? So
What's
I
up?
was just wondering, just out of the ether of the quantum thinking of how a plant would react to a situation where it might have grown up in a bad situation where, let's say, maybe Eagle's over there bending it over all the time, and then it goes to another place and they're babying it.
Actually, you know what?
That-
I would think that maybe in the wild that happens because if there's populations of like hundreds of or thousands of one plant species and something goes wrong in the season, I think the plants know how to account for that to make sure that they have genetics to prepare for a season like that in the future.
I've
One
seen
thing
cuts behave like that, where they've been, taken from my cocoa environment, passed on to the soil grower, and it take a run or two for them to like snap into that type of medium and thrive. And I've definitely seen that, but I can't
So
necessarily.
it's kind of like that's where I'm coming with that theory of how it might take like a couple of runs for it to get used to that kind of whatever atmosphere or what's different, from its memory of how it grew up, was produced.
Yep. Be like taking Country Boy, putting him in the middle of the city or some shit like that,
That was me.
or vice versa. You know what I mean? They're out of their element. It takes them a minute to kind of get your bearings straight. And
I can relate to that because I grew up in a country town and I got thrown right in the middle of Portland, the city of Portland, Oregon, and it was pretty extreme kind of a
Yeah.
change of
John,
thinking.
to your question about stress and having it like impact the seed, cannabis I think is one of the most resilient plants, seed bearing in the wild, like, and whether it's being bred in the grow room. or in the wild, I think the seeds are going to be pretty resilient. Like it survived outdoor for thousands of years with and without human interaction. And I think any amount of stress we can put on it in a grow room. I mean, granted, if you give it way too many like hydroponic nutrients, that's one way you could make some seeds that might not be super healthy or viable. But if you have a normal, like even if you grow in hydro or organic, however you grow, if you have a healthy-ish plant, for the most part, you're going to get mostly decent seeds. It's not like,
But there is a thing called epigenetics, and that's where like the next level of genetics. So I'm trying to think of how to explain this here. So as a plant is, you've heard of how they can have different genetic expressions based.
that's phenotypes. Epigenetics is just a phenotype. So you have your genotype, which is the genetic code.
It's but it'll happen with passed around clones too.
Epigenetics is when it carries through into the next generation, and that's what I'm trying to get at. You guys keep interrupting, but that stress is going to carry through epigenetically to the next generation of seed. That's kind of we're seeing that even.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was saying that it doesn't have to be seeds. It's with passed around clones too.
But that's not an epigenetic. That's a phenotypical expression. Epigenetic is when that is carried through to the next generation and it's passed on to its seed generation.
It's both at the same time. It's both.
But it's, I guess, yeah.
But I agree with you, Smiley.
Yes,
They actually found in chickens.
If we all shared clones, they're all going to grow different in our environments.
And that's
or in the way that, yeah,
that's phenotypic expression.
That's the literal definition of phenotype.
Right, but epigenetic carries. That's when that carries.
Epigenetics drives phenotypic expression, though. That's the main driving force in phenotypic expression.
He's just saying it can carry on from past generations. Is the
but I'm saying that not only does it travel in seeds, it also happens to be in clones that you pass around too.
That's called somoclonal variation. Just throwing that out there for anybody who wants to know. Matthew Gates drops that word all the time.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know that terminology.
I figured you'd be the type of person who would like to know it. But what Smiley is talking about, they found in like chickens, for example, as far as like 6 or 7 generations, if they'd never even seen like an eagle flying above their coop, they could just fly random stuff like triangles, circles, squares.
That's what I tried explaining with the morphic resonance field. But go on. Sorry.
That's like a built-in genetic code, is kind of like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's
the genetics are expressed based off the environment, and then when that plant breeds, that's kind of like a snapshot too. That is my take on it. So that next generation kind of starts off from that as being its part of its genetic, you know what I mean, the way it's going to expect to react. But that's going to be evolving as because it doesn't know what environment it's coming into. But
something I wanted to include to that, Smiley, though, was we were talking a little bit, they're talking about like, can you make a poodle from a wolf and all that stuff. Like the other Red was talking about that the other night. And with cannabis, it all comes from the wild variant. We've bred it, but just like it can have stress from that generation, it can also have resilience from all those hemp feral years where it just had to survive out in nature. Like seeds, you can just drop them on the ground outside and they'll start sprouting. Like you don't need to have fancy germination techniques like we try to do. Like the plant will grow pretty much everywhere. It won't grow ideally, but it's an extremely resilient plant, and it has that baked into its DNA. Even if we've bred it to be like the cookies variety, which is like not resilient, it's like ideal for a grow room where it's like babied, but it still has some qualities about it. Like it will germ, make seeds, and then those seeds will be viable, for example. So that's a survival instinct that it's kept from past years of. That's shit that comes from the wild.
And I would select away from that. Plants in my gene pool that do that would get the axe.
I guess epigenetics would be like the explanation of possibly like somebody that can live in Antarctica, for example, versus somebody that can live at the equator. And then over the generations, you can see the adaptation to that environment. carry through. You know what I'm saying? Even in humans or animals or whatever. So that's kind of what I guess I look at it being what changes are carried through into the next generation, and that can be through biology or through all kinds of things.
If you want to drive that, pick the very first male you find in regular seeds. Top regular seeds, the very first male you find is the most suited for that environment.
I hadn't heard that.
The one thing, Smiley, you're talking about with like epigenetics, they found with like PTSD veterans and people who've experienced like trauma or went to war, their kids, even if they haven't gone to war, often have like PTSD symptoms or trauma, even if they haven't experienced it personally. So I think with the plant, it can carry down like botrytis or powdery mildew can actually be carried within a seed. So when it sprouts, it can already have something from the mother plant that's carried on. That's not just genetic,
just like
it's endophytic.
that's just like our bodies actually have cancer within it, but it doesn't metastasize until it's affected of some sort. Is kind of like what you're saying.
I'm not an expert in that, but
I'm layman terming it, because I understand. I was told by somebody that you have every disease that there ever could be inside your body, and your body doesn't allow it to present itself because it's that kind of a machine until it starts getting weak in certain areas.
I don't know if that's the case because like I don't have, well, maybe you have the capacity to have it. Like every human has it within their genetic code. Right. But like we don't have multiple sclerosis. Like we're not all having serious breathing issues and problems like that.
Right. But then again, it could be all that shit they put in our food too.
I think that leads to, like, if you look at disease over time and when we started, if people look back at traditional agriculture and when they started using more pesticides, I think it may be more the pesticides than the traditional like agriculture nutrient. I think the pesticides are often a lot more harmful than what it's being fed.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I guess
sometimes the solution is
I don't know,
worse than the
I
problem.
don't know how to exactly explain it, but I did see a video and it was a 3D imaging, and like when we look at DNA, we see the typical strand of DNA looks like a train track with a twist in it or whatever. And
double helix.
What this was, the double helix or whatever. But what this was showing is that double helix actually continues, and it's like a continuous strip, and it's almost like interlapping and folding on itself all these different times, and it kind of showed it like a sphere, and then different parts of that strip can be exposed to be written with the other RNA that writes the proteins. So as that thing's changing, it's doing that in response to environments is kind of the way they were describing epigenetics. So the way that Rubik's Cube, so to speak, is being exposed is what's going to write your next proteins and different things. So my understanding of cancer is where those get mixed up and you start writing, cells start producing when they're not supposed to be, kind of thing. And that's where you get like that mass or whatever is fucking cells that ain't supposed to be there. You know what I mean? It was a bad write in the code or something.
That's interesting. So it's not actually just a strand; it's actually a sphere.
Well, it's like
spherical.
It's a changing thing and responding to different inputs, and it can write different proteins based on the inputs that it has too. So,
oh, that's wild. It's like its own little machine within it, right?
Right. It's like the way I was picturing it. Yeah, it's like this real super complex Rubik's Cube that's fucking printing off the proteins and shit, you know. And
I think I've seen stuff like that in a science,
like a printing machine, you know.
Scientific.
But, yeah, it's really complex. It's hard to say. I mean, it's just a matter of whatever we hear here and there, you know what I mean? But that was my basic understanding of the epigenetic, is that term was describing what was happening in the next generation or whatever, based off kind of them phenotypical which would be like that mother generation's environment.
That was a good explanation, but I think you did an even better explanation the other night explaining redox. The reduction and oxidation is just adding or, taking away electrons. Broke
Yeah,
it down a lot more simply.
dude, I'll bust your head open with it today on the nitrogen side too, if you want.
Oh,
Bring it.
Let's
was
open
just
that can of
listening to
worms in the
that.
wormhole.
Well, like atmospheric
Today.
nitrogen, so atmospheric nitrogen is N2, and then when you go into nitrate, or I'm gonna fuck these up now, but one of them is NO3, so it's an oxidized version of the nitrate too. So you know what I'm saying? So the nitrate, the plant normally, the way they describe it in the chemical cycle, the plant normally takes up that nitrate and it converts it into an ammonia. And basically what it's doing to make that into an ammonia is it's adding energy into it. So it's a reducing reaction. It's taking the oxidized state of nitrogen and making it a reduced state, which actually has energy in it for that. And the reason ammonia doesn't stay around in the soil very long is because it has that energy in it. A lot of the biology wants to work on it as well. And when they release that energy, it's basically the nitrogen's gone, the energy they used. So they're basically burning it up or oxidizing it to grab the energy back out of it. But it's a transfer of energy. That's the fucking mind trip of it, right? It's always a transfer of energy. So whatever state it's in, if it's in an oxidized state, it's had that energy gone, that electron's gone from it, and it's usually less it's in a less reactive state or a less usable state or whatever, I guess. That makes
That's some deep stuff. I like that.
His thought or the chugging of the bong.
But photosynthesis is always a reducing reaction, so it's always adding energy into the system. It's adding energy into the system. So in the big mind scheme of things, we always talk of it in sugars, but sugars are that energy too. It's just the way the plant takes all that energy, combines it together in order to transport it through you know what I mean, to different areas where it needs it to. But the other mind fuck about it is that when the plant burns up that energy, so now it takes that sucrose and it ships it off to whatever part of the plant it needs to, just say the new growing leaf. Well, when that new growing leaf oxidizes, it has an oxidation reaction to release that energy from the sucrose. It actually ends up with what's called a carbon skeleton. And that carbon skeleton are the pieces that the plant is putting together to build its cell walls and to build other things like all the fats and tannins and components of what it's going to end up building the main structure of that plant. You know what I'm saying? So the faster a plant's growing, the more energy it's going to need like that too. And its energy be in the form of is burning that energy or metabolizing that energy just to supply the form of carbon skeletons so that it can form its structure. And that's actually how it's growing, is metabolizing that sugar to leave back behind a carbon skeleton. That's what it's forming, these components that we talk about, So I don't know if that's or not.
No, you didn't lose me. I was actually I had an animated picture going on in my mind as you were explaining it. I was inside the plant flowing with it.
Yeah, and there's chemical equations for all that shit, but that's like gonna lose you, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to like big picture.
No,
yeah,
that's
right?
cool.
Like
yeah, makes sense actually.
So it's pulling that carbon
so,
and that's that's what more makes its body basically, or our bodies too, you know what I mean? All of it. Fucked up.
So terpenes are hydrocarbons and sugars are carbohydrates. Right? They're the exact same molecules, but
yeah,
their bonds are flipped.
Well, there's primary metabolites and there's secondary metabolites. And when I say that, what's going to come to most people's mind is going to be that primary metabolites are required for the plant to live and secondary ones are not, but that's actually not true. Primary metabolites are universal across all plants. Secondary
waste products.
metabolites are unique to those specific plants. So when we talk in terms of secondary metabolites, those are unique to that gene, that specific genus of plant or whatever, or you know what I mean, or it's a product of. It's not a universal thing made across in all plants. So like chlorophyll is a primary kind of thing, but you know trichomes might necessarily, you know what I mean, like not every plant is a terpene or whatever, you know. So it's a different distinction than that. So I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? I think the plant is just way, way smarter than we think.
Yes, it is.
In what
I
ways?
mean, that thing can actually, it's like its own, it's almost like it's its own brain. If you think about it as an electrical pulse, your brain sends out, you bump into something, bam, your arm sends something up to your brain sends it down to your mouth, and you say, ouch. You know what I'm saying? So the plant's going through its kind of thing where it's, letting out whatever, and it's grabbing something else, and it's shooting something down to the root. I need this. Get that up here immediately. It shoots it up, goes out that branch, right up to where it needs to be. It's a functioning brain, you know?
Well, it's similar. It functions
know,
really similar to what we do too, in the not necessarily in the way like muscle reactions happen, but in the
oh, yeah, electrically.
electrically, yeah, in the way of sensing things
Yes.
and controlling things. Definitely, you know, like if we were to starve. So if you say you stopped eating or like fasting, right? What first step is, because your body still needs energy. It's gotta have an oxidative thing to release that energy. So from your food, right? So if you stop eating, it's going to start burning up any sugars that are available in your system. After that, it's going to move to the fats that you have stored up in your system. And after the fats are used up for energy, it will start to break apart proteins and deconstruct proteins because it can release the energy from the proteins in that as well. And your plant will kind of do the same thing where it'll start kind of eating itself, like in the
Right.
at the quote unquote flush, like when we really, like when a lot of people really start starving a plant at the end, that's where that fade comes in because it is eating itself or whatever. And I think that's a totally different thing than an actual senescence of the plant where it's doing it in a little different context. But I don't know, that'd be a hard conversation too. So, but I do think there's a difference between starving it at the end and letting proper senescence happen.
So the second one you were talking about is not being forced, but it's doing it naturally.
Yeah, it's doing it on its own.
It's funny I have two plants doing that side by side because one, I did 3 plants in the earth box, but the sangria kind of crowded out by the other 2 plants. So I cut the sangria out because it was dying off underneath the canopy. It couldn't get any light. But the plant that it was closer to, now that it's towards the end of the cycle, it has more of like a yellow leaf kind of fade where it's turning purple, producing anthocyanin, but it's also kind of crisping up and getting yellow and like dying off of the leaf. But the one on the right has a pure green to purple fade. There's not any bit of yellowing or crispiness. And same environment, same temperature, PPFD levels, soil, all that. But
Same
the one
plant?
difference was they're actually from the same seed line, but not a clone of the same plant. But I will say the sangria was definitely planted much closer to the plant that looks like it has less nutrition, which would make sense because it was sharing a root zone with another plant closer to it, in my opinion. Just my gardener intuition. I don't have any data to back that up, but from what I'm seeing.
So how big is your pot?
It's an earth box. It's like
the earth box.
What is it, Smiley? 2 cubic feet or something?
Yeah, something like that.
It's like 15 gallons, I think, is what they say.
Because I got one. I've got one that's about, I'd say about probably a 30-gallon, maybe 35-gallon tub that I'm going to turn into an earth box. I could put 2 plants in that, no problem. Huh?
Yeah, 2 plants would be fine.
Yeah,
I was doing 3 plants in soil and 3-gallon pots side by side, and then I went from that to 3 plants in an earth box. I figured, I had 9 gallons of soil versus 15 gallons. I'd have 5 gallons each versus 3 gallons each. So that's why I tried 3 plants and grew them, veg them about the same size. Maybe got them a little too big because in that earth box the fucking plants took off. And it could also just be that velvet punch stretches a lot. So
I've never done that. I've never grown more than 1 plant into a container.
I've grown in beds before, but in a pot, like a sealed container like this is just first for me, other than like having like a few sprout up like a volunteer, or twins or something like that occasionally.
Oh yeah, or having something sprout up below another plant or something from a previous grow. Well, I reuse my dirt, so
Yeah.
soil. Get that out there right.
Smiley, I wanted to make a joke when you're talking about how in humans you lose your fat for like however the process is, you lose all this. And then I was gonna in the American one accent go, I don't got a ounce of fat on me, Smiley. I'd lose my muscle. I'd lose my muscle right away. Like a New York accent.
Yeah. I just want to, can I just answer a question in chat? What about Bob was asking about potassium bumped at beginning of flower, or keep pushing calcium until after stretch, then hit with K? Yeah, definitely he's on the right track there. It's the balance of that calcium and potassium and that shift there that will cause that. But I would personally wait until you definitely have a decent bud set before you would really want to shift K. Because if you come in too early with potassium, you can really affect your yield as well in a negative way. So I err to the later side on that one. So,
How far into flower then?
I would be like day 28 to 35-ish before I'd really even.
Does it depend on strain? Like when you're seeing bud set, like when the stretch is stopping?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely, Jack. I mean, you'd want to watch what your plant's doing, and the timing of that would be something that's individual to the plants for sure, no doubt.
I'm picking up on what Jack said. When it stops stretching is when you would do that? Is that what you were saying? Kind of like when you would.
When it's done stretching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Typically, if you after you see the stretch.
Okay.
I definitely like front loading calcium going into flower, and the plants definitely use a lot of it. I look at Russ Brandon's testing and how much his plants go through it. And granted, my shit's not as dialed in as his. I try to get it as close to as possible. I'm using some of his stuff and a similar soil mix and trying to push the plants. And I've actually got a good amount of CO2, so I run my PPFT pretty high, and I'm very happy with what I'm able to pull. Especially shit, looking at this earth box, man, I'm like, holy fuck!
I can't wait to go.
It's crazy too, man. Did you notice like when it's almost like they grab hold and it's like a fucking slingshot. All of a sudden one day,
watering,
damn, dude, like holy shit.
I was patient as a motherfucker. I went through and I watered in with that Micro Plus, and I used the chafing sprayer and pumped, and I just slowly fucking let that soil soak it all up and that runoff down to the bottom. And then I just started filling it up in the down the tube or whatever, and never had to water from the top again. Once I sealed it up, it was good to go, and the plants just raged. Like basically, as soon as I got to that, it was maybe a week tops, but like there was no transplant shock at all. They settled in. I had the easy swap pot, so I just basically unsnapped, set it down, and like filled soil in around it, covered it up, and it was off to the races, man. No looking back. Definitely a big fan of the earth box or sip, whatever, however you have to do it. But I think the earth box has some magic to it. If you saw Build a Soil, his side by side versus like 30 and 60 gallon pots, or 60 gallons of soil, like 2 30-gallon pots versus 2 earth boxes, which is 30 gallons of soil, literally half the soil. It was pretty damn close. I don't know if he's weighed it up yet, but the quality and bud size was pretty damn impressive for what his 2 earth boxes put out. So I was like, hey, 1 earth box in my spot will be plenty.
I got an earth box question. Can you, if you had some aquaponic shit going or just some fish tank that would be qualified, able to be used as aquaponics, could you put that water in place of just plain water, nutrient water to use that?
Yeah,
I would cut it down, but I would use it.
I don't have any fish. I have cats, so they would eat the fish, so it wouldn't work out too well for me. But I know people do like the aquaponics, and I think that
Is there anyone doing aquaponics plus earth box?
I mean, that's exactly, it's like, if you look at Steve Reisner, I believe is his name, Potentonic Steve, he does dual root zone, and it's not an earth box, but he's using aquaponics with soil. And
Well,
then,
I definitely know. It's a prospect. I don't know. I know someone, a Canadian grower I know a Canadian grower. If Canadian Jay is watching, he'll know too. He dubbed this guy's grow the ISS, like International Space Station, but he calls it the Indica and Sativa Station. But he's he's got a super high tech, all DIY, dual root zone, whatever you want to, whatever the technical term is, where he's growing in super soil and smart pots or whatever, some kind of pots that get sips. It's super soil and sips with aquaponics and some crazy dope ass looking contraption that Canadian Jay calls the Indica and Sativa Station, because he says it's so high tech that it reminds him of the ISS. But
there's something to the aquaponics. I mean, shit, Steve was saying he gets 4 inches of growth in veg with a lot of their mother plants. That's
a day?
pretty fucking crazy. A day, 4 inches of growth per day on their mother
Okay,
plants.
I've seen 1.5 to 2 inches in an entire leaf set. Like I've had, actually, it was simultaneously too. It must have been something to just that, the air, something in the air, my soil mix, and the genetics that I was growing. And they both had the name Snow in it as well, which is even more of a synchronicity. I had a LA Confidential cross Snowcap from DNA Genetics, their limited seed collection line. And I had Hawaiian Snow from Greenhouse Seeds. And both of them were putting on an entire leaf set a day. So they'd be like, leaf set, next day, leaf set, next day, leaf set. And it was growing like 1.5 to 2 inches a day under T5s. During the summer, when it was maybe like 75 to 78%, or 75 to 78 temperature, and I don't know, 54 to 65% humidity.
Like my cat box.
I do, Smiley, or not Smiley, Johnny. It's cool that you got 100% germination and that it's such a cheap input. $5 bag of sand, you're going to be able to root clones like that for the fucking rest of your growing career.
That's what I'm saying. I'm wondering if anybody else is trying out this tech.
Shit, I might next time I see a bag of sand.
Well,
it's good for a soil mix too.
Yeah, I actually threw a couple scoopfuls into my my mix this last time when I mixed it up.
Did you read that article I sent you?
Zindra.
Yes, I believe I did.
Cheers, Indra.
Indra's in the house. Oh, he's in the chat. Cheers, Indra. Good to see you.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the first time I'm doing it with partial buds on it, like that. So I'll see how that goes. The first ones did not have the little bud sites on it, so it'll be.
I bet you it'll work.
Yeah, I'm expecting it will work, no problem. Once again, but I'm blown away at how well the roots came out. They were just literally sprout out along the bottom of the thing. It was really cool.
Did you see the little article I sent you on Instagram?
How long ago was that?
I don't know. It was probably the day that you posted that you got roots, and we were talking about it in the DMs.
Yeah, I did.
It was talking about mixing that for those who I didn't send it to, it was kind of saying they tried sand and then peat by itself, I think, or peat or cocoa. I couldn't remember the other one. But then they did a mix of both, and they actually had their best results with a mix of both, like 50-50 or any mix, like 30-70, 70-30, either way. But he's doing 100% sand, and that's as basic and cheap and simple as you can get. And it keeps the moisture. If you said you just got to basically damp.
I keep it inside the dome.
Yeah.
And I moisten
not
the
stopping
sand.
wet?
And no, it's not stopping wet. Basically, I put just a little bit of water in there because the sand is kind of moist when you get it. You know, it's just kind of that way. And then, so when I put that into it, I add just a little bit of, the aloe water that I had the plants soaking in. I pour a little bit of that water in there. That's all. After that, I stab them in there and I smush them in close to it so that they're not really compact, but they're, there's no air gaps on it. And then I just put it inside the dome, keep an eye on it. When I start to see the top of the sand start to dry up just a little bit, I'll just put a little bit more water in there, just a touch more.
Is that often? Because is it drying up or is the water just running away from the top?
No, it's not very often that I have to do that.
Okay. So you're saying you're
inside
that dome, you're able to get basically sand to stay saturated.
Yeah. Inside the dome, the moisture that is created from the other, because I have water down at the bottom of the tray in here.
Okay, this kind of sort of leads me into my next question. Because to me, on the micro scale, that kind of reminds me of like the hempy bucket method, to where like Vengus, he's growing like in straight up perlite and like 5 gallon buckets.
Like that. I guess it would be kind of like that.
It's scaled down, right? Because you're in clone or seedling stage when you do that, and those like micro grains of sand sort of are representative to what you're going to be growing with in a 5 gallon bucket with perlite, right?
Yeah.
It's like honey, I blew up the damn grow pot, that kind of fucking shit. Right. So, how layering, people are getting more into the technique, and this was just more intuitive even when I was like a kid and kind of just realized what plants grew out of. But how layering is becoming more of a growing technique. I don't want to say fad, but
Eagle taught me that stuff.
Aerated drainage from the bottom, like your healthy organic root zone that's also aerated to some extent in the middle, and then top layer of mulch in either the form of cover crop or compost or even hay or whatever, but a 3-layered kind of thing going on. Now, what I thought, because, in here, we're all doing the crystal thing, right? That's a running joke. But how cost effective is it to actually use crystals as that bottom aerated layer? I don't know what the wholesale value of like raw rose quartz is or whatever. But, you think even if you grow on that pot, the very worst, it's all going to get rooted through, and you can reuse it over and over again, because all you have to do is break it free from the roots and wash it, just rinse it with water maybe, and then reuse it. So it's not like, even if it's an investment, it would cost a lot. I'm just being really crazy and thinking, if I wanted to do this 3-layer technique, can I use...
That'd be expensive.
How much though? Because I'm thinking like in like
a
what
piece
would it be? Like,
this big can go for like anywhere from like $10 to $30.
Okay, so think about that though. 2 inches in diameter in particular. Let's get scientific and precise.
That goes up way higher in price. The larger.
Whoa, I'm not talking about cut. I mean like raw. You know what I mean? Not.
I know that's what I'm talking about. With some.
All right.
Are you talking about like growing in the crystals?
No,
like
no,
that?
no.
He's saying using that as one of the layers, like your aeration instead of stones.
Oh, okay.
Let
It
me
could be your gnat resistant. layer.
Let me yes, let me expound. It would be the bottom layer, and I'm thinking in a 5-gallon bucket that you have 1.5 inch drainage holes cut into. So that's why I say go 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter. So that way these crystals don't just fall out of the drainage holes as you water, right? You're not going to be drained to waste watering with soil and top dress anyways, but the water is going to drip because of gravity. So you don't want it just fucking flowing out of the bottom. Anywho, so like I'm saying, but let's say you only have like a 4x4 tent. You only have 4 or 5-gallon pots that you're doing this with, and you only need them to be 2 inches. So maybe, I don't know how many, it's like one of those marbles in a jar. How many goddamn marbles go into this little jar? Who knows? How many would you have to use? Like you're saying, $10 crystals. Let's just say 40.
Eagle's got a whole bunch of skulls full of them.
Times 4, which would be what, 1,600? Pretty big investment. People buy grow lights that cost $1,600. And like same, it's reusable over and over and over and over and over and over again, because it's going to be a root ball. Roots are going to bind to it. Very worst is, like I said, you just break it off. That
You
little
do it.
crystal
You
layer.
do it. Don't hypothesize
Yeah,
it. You do it. Do it.
This isn't
You're
anything
talking about it. Make it happen.
Okay, as long as anyone
You're
doesn't
talking about
like,
$1,600 investment. If you want to believe in it, you do it. This
I
is
don't.
on you,
Hey,
Red
wait, no,
Pill.
okay, let me.
You
I
do
don't-
it. You're talking about your dad. Take one plant, full pot, bottom of crystals. No excuses.
Okay, one plant. All right, at least you convinced me to go one plant and not fill
Dude.
out
Then
the
your
whole
dad, you
plant.
can't be talked out of it. One plant, there's no excuse. You say, if I ever get caught, this is for my medical purpose. I have glaucoma. This is fucking bullshit that I can't have my own.
We
No
already
jury will
ran
ever
that.
fucking prosecute me. I'm growing my one fucking plant.
Okay,
5
here's the thing.
gallons.
There's two things with that though. We've already ran that excuse one time already, so it'd be a second time we do that. And the only
One
thing
plant.
that would convince
Worked once,
me,
it worked.
well, the only thing that convinces me that that's all right for a second time. This isn't, bringing anyone else into the equation, but it makes sense in my mentality because
Are you talking about
there's
me?
all this in the last 4 years. There's been this, whatever fucking. Now there's social equity written into all these laws. So the Wisconsin laws actually have social equity written into it. So anyone that's got their, that's ever had a boo-boo because of the goddamn marijuana being illegal, they're going to get their records expunged. So I would be like, right now, if I had my own place, I'd probably have a 4K grow right now, plus breeding project.
So have you talked to your dad again yet about that? Lowered the
I've
amount that you
decided,
want to grow yet?
yes. I've
And did you tell him
renegotiated.
4?
Well, now I'm not as ambitious with a 5x5 tent. I haven't came to him with this proposition, but I've been thinking 2x2 tent, and just having people. Right now, we're doing a DOA project.
Yeah.
But if anyone wants to aid with doing pheno selection with seeds that I want to offer for a breeding project, we can go, we can negotiate on a business deal about that. But for just the ability to do
You
it.
got a 2x2 tent?
Just
Okay.
grow a plant to have your own plant. You know what I mean? Fucking one plant, all you need.
I've
You don't
done
need to
this.
go crazy with it. I know, I'm just saying, but right now, I feel like
we're cycling back to where this is something that people told me for years back in Colorado. And me, I was always, I guess just to surmise the, not to, whatever, diagnose the fucking, the pathology or the therapy ailment, psychological ailment, but it was butt hurtness, right? For me, being in an apartment and having just a 3x3 and a 2x2 tent to grow in, and being like, I fucking, I should be having more than this, enough of these fucktards, you know, in the
So
fucking cannabis industry. Go ahead,
I
Eagle.
like where
Grow your
Jed's
own.
going there. Instead of the giant crystal, just smashing it up into like a crystal-like perlite and then growing it. I think that
Well, that's what I was thinking too. Like, even though I would be able to do that on my own, because that's another cost thing that Jack is talking about. If I want small cut diamonds, that's even more than the damn 2 inch wide ones. It doesn't have to be carat. We're not talking about carats. It's just the
man, them butts better head
one.
spinners.
You have you have you have to have jewelers tool all that shit and machine it down to get to those little small perlite pieces. So that's what I meant. The raw chopped up pieces I thought would have been more cost effective, right?
So,
Uh,
Eagle, are those granulated crystals inside those skulls?
They are yeah, pretty much they're, like pea size, a little bit smaller, but yeah, just this. I don't know why I can't get
Yeah, because you
a
really
shot
can't
of
see any definition on that. It just shows the skull thing.
Let me
but
see
see,
here.
the granular size in this case actually doesn't matter because crystals are so dense. You could have them nano particles. They're going to stay on the bottom of the pot because they're so dense. They're not going to float up to the top like other aeration materials would. So that's why I was thinking crystals on the bottom. They're going to stay there. You know,
I like that idea of growing something like a rock or whatever that was. They grew.
like
They had a rock, and he grew. The guy that we had earlier. So the guy had a
With
seed,
GG
put a towel
was talking
over
about
it.
the bonsai plant.
Yeah, I would love to do something like that. I wanna find out more about that.
Stoma does something similar to that, where you literally yanks up on a plant's main stem and creates like this cathedral looking thing where it's got like these alien octopus tentacles of air dried roots that go into the
So,
pot.
Well,
so does he prop
I
it up
used to
or
do
what?
that
I
a
mean,
long time ago as well. You just up pot. I used to
Mm.
do that for multiple reasons. If you already got a decent sized plant in a small pot, you'll be expecting the pot that it's going into to possibly run out of energy. Spliff, it's basically, as I've always known it, it's like a spliff technique. He was the one that I've always learned that from.
Yep, yeah,
It's
that's where I got it
basically,
from.
you've
Well,
got a large
so
pot and you up pot it, you leave at least a third of it sticking
yeah,
out,
yeah.
and that leaves more room for
I don't ever
nutrients in the
remember.
pot. Then that top right at the base, and it will water that root layer back, and it hardens
so
all
you're
those roots,
I
much like you're
remember.
talking
I
about.
never
And
remembered Spliff calling it up potting too. I think you use the term mounding,
Yeah,
right?
that's like mound tech. Mendo Dope does that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when
so
they plant
when
outside, and
you were
Hardy Gear
doing that.
talked about the soil, how it breathes a little better when you have it up above. Like if you're planting onto your native soil instead of going straight into mound up, because it can get more oxygen in there and then it can grow down into the other stuff. And Johnny, the reason I sent you
isn't
the
that
article
like a
was
Hugo bed though, or isn't that what they
it
call
doesn't
it?
have to
Hugo
be.
Hugo bed.
Yep.
Hugel beds have that wooden log in there, but
Semi
it doesn't have to be a
decomposed.
hugel.
Yeah.
It could just be a straight up mound of soil, and you make it like a volcano, because that way the water runs down to the sides and there's air that's able to get in there.
Yep.
But then it's able to also grow down into the native soil versus like digging a hole and going into the hole, because if the air can't get in there, you can have more oftentimes your roots get root rot. This way you kind of get that dual root zone. You got the roots above the ground that have air and it dries out a little bit quicker, and then the roots below the ground that hold a little bit more water and can touch into that water.
And like I said, I have to be. It's going to be a thing, like I said, I wanted to answer your question, Jack, or your inquiry. It's gonna happen eventually, because in between the 2 years time, if we do legalize or if I do move again, I don't want to have to stay here if it be, determines that I'm not going to be able to grow or, take the chance. I can't do it here because it'll be my third time. It'll be the third,
Third strike.
Third strike from my dad, second strike from me, so I'm just not going to tempt fate. And that, if I were to move out and have my own place here, I don't care really about, what happens to me so much. So, but I don't think that's going to happen. I see me either moving either back to Colorado, could be Oklahoma, could be Michigan, considered Arizona, multiple other states that I wanted to look into going to. But even though it sucks, I'm patient to wait. Like I said, I can maybe convince myself. It's probably not going to happen with a 5x5 tent, growing a whole bunch of plants in there, but maybe a 2x2 tent or just breeding purposes. Like I said, if other people, if I can share seeds that I have or want to get and share them, people, and then get to the point where I'm just getting, clones sent to me and just growing one reversed female and one other or a couple other clones to get pollinated. And it's only like a periodic thing where it's maybe only going to be a 10-week time frame where I'm, or 10 to 12-week time frame where I'm growing.
I want to ask Johnny something that's outside of the hypothetical before we get to 420, and then I'll pass it back to you, Rad, because I'm going to jump out when we go to 420, but I do want to hear more of your thoughts on what you might potentially do. But Johnny, with the mix with the sand, the reason I said the peat or cocoa might help, not even just for the rooting, because you got 100% rooting, but when you went to transplant into the cup, I think it might make it easier. Just this root ball could stay together a little bit more, like formed, versus like having to break it up and then put it into the thing. And I saw how you kind of like spooned it apart, and it worked. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. But if I were to go about it,
This is the first time I'd ever done it.
Yeah, no, I'm super curious. Honestly,
it's not
myself,
about breaking it.
I want to try it because I don't want to run any power. Like I have a cloner, my method works, and also using plugs works, but then you have to buy plugs over and over. I saw a Medicropper, he uses straight cocoa in his little cell trays, and that works by itself. So I know straight cocoa can work, straight sand can work, a bunch of things can work.
That's what I was using before was straight cocoa.
Yeah.
That's what I was using before was straight cocoa. But this time, doing it this way, I skipped the solo cup and I went right to the one gallon pot.
That makes sense.
See what I'm saying?
At
so instead of dealing with,
is it 420?
It is about to be 420.
Yeah. Almost. Just real close. I'm all packed up and ready to go.
Hold on. No.
But yeah, it's really simple. When I took it out, I just spooned down in below it, moved it a little bit, popped it up. It was good.
Tao.
Is Tao here yet?
Tao.
It's okay. Tao.
I still think that would be amazingly funny if it did really jerk him out of reality. No matter what he was doing, just pulled him in. Son of a bitch.
I've been summoned.
Yeah. I just can't get out of this loop. Cheers, Tal.
I'm excited to see how it turns out for the super clone though.
How late was that in the flower? Like 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
It only took 10 days for the other ones to root up. I mean, that's pretty quick, right?
Wait.
10 days.
I can't wait to figure this one out. Research it back. Who's hitting this channel all the time? Oh shit, let them have it. They can dab this shit up all they want. This shit does bring back some just golden memories.
Ugh. I was smoking on Amy Aces and the Tao here.
You're dancing, Johnny.
The Tao strain.
It is like coffee, though. For real. There you go. Out. Thank you guys.
Yeah. Jack's Puffco is making his face glow red. He looked like he was possessed or something.
It was too. You saw that?
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
like,
Jack
what-
was in a
I was like, what
dungeon
is
or
it? And then I
something.
seen you lean back with the Puffco. I was like, oh, it's the fucking Puffco.
I know Jack was like in a dungeon or something. On his right face.
That's where Lady Greenstock keeps me. No, I'm just kidding. I love it where I'm at. It's a great spot. But I want to say, Red Pill, I love your, creativity,
Mhm.
and I really hope that you do have the chance to get growing. I don't know if you're going to be moving, or just renegotiating, or living in a different spot or whatever. But whatever time it takes, I completely understand. Never worth rushing it. And I'm all about the action. You say like if. I'm just trying to like push him, like, oh man, I hear it in your voice. I know you want to be doing it again. So I just can't
Yeah.
wait till you're able to have that opportunity. So I just
Yep.
want to say cheers to you. Good to see you, man. Johnny, great to see you as always. Eagle and Smiley, good talking to you as well. Have a great night, everybody. Peace and love, always.
Thank you, Jack.
Later, Jack.
Night, Jack.
I'm good with Jack.
Popping in, bro.
Red Pill, I understand why you're hesitant about that because you don't want to get your dad in trouble.
It's not my rules here. I'm 30 years old.
Yeah,
but it's
I
just
totally
not my
understand
rules. I mean,
I
I'm-
totally understand that because your dad has had the same kind of thing going on. That makes sense.
he got busted himself in 93. And then we got busted together in 2013. So it's,
Father and son, it didn't fall far from the tree, did it?
um, but I forgot how I wanted to answer, or not answer, but put on what Jack was saying. Other than yeah, it is killing me. Oh yeah, I remember, but I didn't get to convey it to him because he signed off. But in other wormholes, I told the Eagle and you guys that that's one thing that I'm thankful for. Feel blessed that I am third. I'm young and there's still a life left to live, and unless the whole world isn't crumbling down around us, things are getting better for cannabis, right? So whether it gets to happen here on my own turf, or I have to go and move somewhere because I'm young, I do stress about it on a day-to-day basis, but then I don't stress about it, to an extreme extent, because I realize that I'm not, I'm not 100 years old. You get what I mean? There's so plenty of life to live.
You still got a journey to walk yet.
Yeah,
So
that's what I mean.
you got
I really genuinely enjoyed Captain 420 and Fo 420, those two, because I think they're almost the same age, or in that ballpark, and a lot of the same things. A lot of us did start partaking very young, 10, 12, 15 years. And then we got extremely interested in it. And it became a lifelong journey and a lot of commitment, for for me, I always think it's like kind of like my cousin's buddy. I have a cousin that's like 9 years older than me, and he had a buddy in high school that his whole thing was just waiting for high school to be over, and he would always tell his friends that after this is all done, I'm moving to California and I'm helping my uncle grow weed, right? And that's exactly what he did. Now my cousin goes out there and basically lives half the year out there with him, helping him grow weed, right? So it, that was the same thing I thought of too, because we're the acceleration of where at least nothing was recreational yet, but it was medical. So I thought the same thing. Like, you know, I've got this much commitment into it already. It's worth a whole, you know, investment in life to do, right? So and that's only been about 12, 14 years in that time frame. So I'm still, young enough to where there's plenty of time, in between there. I went through a lot of, I wouldn't call it bullshit, but I just feels really weird to be alive and conscious right now, and not yet do things.
I just feel like you're rubbing it in at this point.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're too
yeah.
freaking
You're young and fun.
You're too young.
Jesus.
No,
You're too young.
that's not the.
I'm
fucking-
over the
that's not-
hill. I'm over the hill.
Jeez. Come on.
Man, we're looking in a mirror and we're both seeing the world upside down, because me, I feel thankful that I might get to your guys' age someday. And I think of like, damn, dude, that's
Dude,
I'm thinking of
I'm
something.
49. Stop acting like I'm fucking 90.
Oh my God, no.
Jesus,
Old man.
It's not a
Freaking
miracle
old
that
man.
I made it this far.
Right?
Shit.
I'm gonna be
Lex-
43.
Yeah, but-
Shit, I got you guys all beat.
Okay.
I'm the old man on this
Oh,
Maybe
picture
this
right
is
here.
something. Maybe this is a time dilation type thing, where the older you get, the less time becomes relevant. But what I'm talking about is how much time I can use. If right now you were like, go breed cannabis for 20 years and then come back to me, how many fucking, what I can get. I'm saying there's 20 years.
You're not helping at all.
He's rubbing it in again.
You're not
All right.
helping
I
at
got 20 more years of growing.
You guys
You're
got 20 years too. And then you guys are going to be 40 years ahead of me. That's what I'm saying.
You are so spinning your tires.
All right, I'm done. I need another dab. That's it.
Oh man, that was good, Eagle. I love that. That was awesome.
You're lucky we were your age once, Red Pill. That was like.
When I was your age, I was walking uphill both ways to school.
I could get out of this fucking chair, I swear.
I kicked the floor.
It's too funny.
Oh yeah, to be young again, man.
Right. I'm gonna have to hop out, guys, too. So it's that time. Get some sleep. Hopefully get rid of this fucking weird head cold thing. Won't bug me no more. Power of optimism. It's gonna go away. It's going away. You watch.
Echinacea.
Feel like a 30-year-old. Feel like a 30-year-old.
Right, exactly. All right, guys. Have a good Wednesday, man. We'll see you guys.
That's horrible. That's horrible, Red.
What?
Feel like a 30-year-old again. Eagle, what's your plans tomorrow? You gotta go?
Yeah. I actually supposed to start that tile job again tomorrow because materials were not there today.
Don't you love that?
Yeah. I actually
Those are
went and
hiccups
fetched
in
them
construction.
myself. I went and fetched them myself, so there's no excuse. They're there for start tomorrow. they're ripping ready to run. So,
That's it.
yeah, but they
All
did. They
right,
were
then
supposed to be here today.
I am going to jump on out then. I want to say thanks, Eagle. It was a great show tonight. I enjoyed Happy GG. Is that what it is? Or
Hemp with GG, correct? Yeah.
Hemp with
YouTube
GG.
and
That's what it was.
IG.
That's right. Yeah, and I jumped onto his IG and YouTube to subscribe to him so I could check him out. That was good. Red, awesome. Always good to have conversation with you. Even though you're a youth, a young little wet nose, still got, yeah.
Yeah.
Green, Johnny.
Mhm.
Great. Love you, Red.
Yep.
We'll talk to you guys later. Peace and love, Chad. I'll see you guys in a minute.
Peace out. Thank you, Johnny. Yep. Yeah, thanks, guys. And then thanks for not just labeling me a millennial. I was going to ask you, should I take another dab or should I just sign off?
You can take another
promise.
dab before you sign
Okay, I
off.
promised the
But
people
that's-
another dab, but my whole thing is the mic etiquette with the torch, and then everyone dropped out, so I didn't want to just leave you hanging. If I mute and use a minute and a half to torch up or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that cool with you?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm dabbing too, man. I actually went, like I was saying earlier, man, I actually picked up a new little dabber today for of it. I've got a couple laying around, but I'm definitely on the ball with, man, size. For me, red pill, and I know you're keeping up there. That rate's too big for me, man. I prefer something more this size. I find the bigger the rig, it's a lighter dab, but takes way too much out of it for me, especially if it's water filtered like that. It just, I don't know, man. I get more of a punch out of that littler guy than I do a bigger rig. Too much filtration, I believe. I did get a thicker banger today too, which I found seems to really help with getting me through that dab without losing it. It doesn't seem to just kind of burn off in the bowl as long. You know what I mean? Cheers, real quick. Seems to be a little smoother too. Crazy. I'm not a professional dabber.
Yeah, this one I don't know how tall it is, but it's a 14 mil. That's the bucket size, and then this one, like I said, what used to be the daily driver, this is a 10 mil, and it's a little bit shorter. It's like a half
The
an inch
second
to
one
an inch.
seems more appropriate for me.
Yeah, definitely. It's a recycler too, the way it works. I like it too. I love it. I just need a new banger for it because it's 10 mil. And like I said, you called me out for not being able to, but not going out and buying one immediately.
Oh, you don't need to buy one immediately.
Right. No, I brought two out here for that reason. And then, like I said, I haven't spoken much of it. I have like a whole half ounce that I haven't even touched, but I've been smoking flower too. So
Oh. Captain 420 popping on just as we're popping off.
Yeah. Shout outs. I don't know if he's here. I gave him a shout out a few minutes ago.
Should have joined us earlier, Captain. We're just bailing, my friend.
He is in Thailand, right? What are they, 18
Yeah.
hours ahead of us?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
It's something like that. I don't know how close it is to Australia time, but I remember when me and my buddies surrounded by Keith used to do our show. A lot of times it would end up being like 1 a.m., 3 a.m. when we'd start. And the main people we would, not necessarily the main, because there wasn't a whole, we would get a lot of Australian people. And they were literally like fucking 20 hours ahead of us.
I still can't get through.
Okay. Hey,
Hey, we can hear you
you're
now.
on here. Yep.
Oh, cool. I can hear you guys now. Hey, I just wanted to pop on and, you know, Red Pill, you were talking about me and AB. You know, we basically gave up our early years of our life for this cause. And you have to understand that we were hunted all those years. And now we have recreational, and that is totally screwing up what I fought for. I fought for medical, but our main fight was to legalize cannabis. No recreational bullshit, just straight out legalize it for everybody to grow and take away going to jail. I hope you the best of luck, because after Illinois changed their laws within 2 years, my felony was gone. And I had nothing except minor tickets for cannabis, possession of cannabis. I can say now, I say as fast as you can be, Lakewood will never catch me. Lakewood, Ohio is where our chapter was, and I had the biggest balls of them all because I was growing above the chapter. And Lakewood police was watching me for over 6 months from the building across the street because it pointed right at the normal chapter and cannabis connections. They have hours of me walking towards the window, waving to them. But, you know, this is something that basically we gave up our life. My life when I grow is going to festivals, going to music shows, and that's about it. You don't drive fancy cars. You don't look fancy. You don't spend a lot of money in your town and your state. But there's no problem going to like New York City for New Year's with your friends and blowing 5-10 grand. It's because it's not in your state. I was going to Amsterdam 2005, 2006. I was there about every month, every other month for 2 to 3 weeks because I had a bankroll and I couldn't spend it at home and I couldn't grow anymore at home. It got really hot.
You
So I
probably
had to
bumped
quit.
shoulders with one of my buddies that used to go there around the same years. And you know what? Your two things, your episode made me so I never, considered hitting up normal for any other reason, but up until watching your episode, maybe consider it because of what you said about the legal representation about it. When you said, what does it come down between buying a card or being in normal? When you have that legal representation, you end up saving yourself some money when it comes down
No,
to it.
Now, I'm gonna tell you that, a lot of the normal chapters today have gone away. They're not doing what they, are supposed to be doing, and it's the legalization. They figure they get medical, they get rec, and they can quit. No, we don't need rec. If we take rec out of it and legalize it, then the government doesn't get their tax money. The states don't get their money for the permits, but the weed is free. We don't go to jail for it. If your friends need some, we can give it to them because we all can grow.
Yeah, and the same thing. Before I got busted, I don't know if you caught my episode.
I did. That's why I came on.
Thank you. Yeah, I got. They were looking after me. I basically, it came down to someone ratted on me. So the full detail is I basically went. You have to almost be a hermit. You still do it to
You
this day.
do.
That I'm at where I'm living now. But it was
And
3.5 years of me being a hermit to where I finally allowed people from my old circle back into my life. Well, that doesn't take long for me to, whatever, conclude to where whoever it was that ratted on me did. But before that, before they kicked my door in, like I said, they looked at me for a long time. And they never found anything. They wanted to find someone leaving my house that they could pull over that left my house with weed. It never happened because no one ever left my house with my weed, right? So it came down to the secondary law that they had, which was they're allowed to pick through my trash. And they got a judge to sign a warrant based on resi toothpicks that I cleaned a pipe with. Poked holes out of a dirty pipe with a resi toothpick. Resi toothpicks
yeah,
went in trash. And I was smart enough, and my dad was very cautious of any grow material that we had that went to the trash. He took that to a separate place and got rid of it far away from our home. But
I
I
was
never
lucky. I had a coffee shop around the corner from my house. So basically, after I ran things through a blender, I took all my stuff, wrapped it up, duct taped it, wrapped it up in another garbage bag, duct taped that one, and I took it to my friends and they put it right in with the coffee. So, yeah, I understand what you mean about throwing stuff out. And, they don't need any reason really to go through your trash. Once you put it out
So-
there, that's open to the public.
Mhm.
So anybody can go through your trash, but to get resin off of fucking toothpicks, that's pretty
Yeah.
fucking petty of them.
I know.
And it's a sad story, but that's what we have to deal with, is we have to deal with people that are willing to write warrants over a little bit of resin found on something. And I feel sorry for you over that.
So I do need to sign off, boys. But if you guys,
All right,
I'm
well, I
throwing
just
this
wanted
out
to,
there.
I just wanted
Let me
to
finish,
jump
let me
on and
finish. You guys wanted to finish your conversation and keep it going. I do trust you guys to, not bash anybody, do the right thing, and have a good conversation. If you would like to continue this canvas conversation, you can. Just tell everybody to do something nice. Random acts of kindness before you sign up. I'll let Red Pill take the meeting. Red Pill, as soon as you would done with the meeting, you hit end, it would end the broadcast. So just saying, if you guys would like to continue to take,
like that.
what's that?
It'll prompt something for me. Right now, something that I can't see. When you give me the controls, I'll be able to see, basically.
Yeah, it'll
Okay.
give you the
Even
power
on-
of the meeting. Yeah.
Even on my phone, Zoom is that
Yeah.
highly sophisticated.
So on, like, but right now, see? Hold on.
so for those out there, if you can tell, I look totally different than I did the other day. And this is what gave me an edge with normal. is because I'm a short-haired deadhead. And, you know, being able to change your looks from day to day is really nice, especially in the cannabis world. And you have to go into like your great grocery store and you don't want to be recognized. So, you know, it's all in your appearance too.
Night, guys. Have a good conversation.
Thanks, Eagle. Thanks for letting us have this opportunity. I really appreciate
No,
it.
it seems like you guys would like, you know, have a nice, good, genuine conversation coming up. That's why I didn't want to end it. So have fun, man. Get to know each other. Get to know each other, guys.
Yep.
It's what it's
All right.
about. It's
Thank
what
you,
it's
Eagle.
about. Night, guys.
Yep.
Good night, chat. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
So what time is it actually? Was I right about that? 18 hours? I'm in Central time.
Well, if you're in Ohio, it's 11 hours behind me. So I'm actually 11 hours in the future.
Yeah.
Your 420 is my 320. Your 520 is my 420. You know, this nice haircut and a shave here in Thailand cost me a whole 120 baht, which 30 baht per dollar gave me $4. I got on earlier after my ride on the bike. I picked up pineapple for 20 baht. So basically for 65 cents, I had a pineapple.
Mhm.
And Chiang Rai is known for their sweet little pineapples, and these things are like sugar. Our oranges come in part green and a little bit orange, but they're done because we have a 12-12 light cycle. So things don't totally ripen up on the outside, but they're good on the inside. This is something I wanted to touch about. You know, moving to a different country is hard. Going to Amsterdam in the beginning was hard for me until I started spending time there and could understand a little bit of Dutch. Me growing in a different region, a different country, I'll tell you right now, I usually fuck up my first garden. But we keep doing it and we keep doing it because we learn as we go. You sound like someone that, you know, is always thinking of how can I build this? How can I do this? In the early days, we seen hydroponic systems and catalogs and things like that. And, you know, they were $400,000, $500,000, $800,000. My first grow light was almost $500. My 4x8 flood table was almost $400. But I looked at that hydro system and I said, you know, I can go to Home Depot. I can get a 3/4 horsepower pump. I can get some tubing and I can get some really long 6-inch PVC piping and throw some hydrocorn in there and throw some rock wool plugs and go to town that way. I had a 2-light system. There were 2 600s. It had 120 plants underneath it. And I averaged right around 3/4 of an ounce of plant off of that little system. And it took a small area, basically a little bit wider than, I would probably say, a good 6x8 area. You don't need much area, but a 2x2 area is too small. Your heat problems and your 2x2 are going to be the thing.
Yeah, for sure. When you stack plants that tight together, do you have to trim side branches or do they grow straight up because they know they have crowding?
Well, it depends a lot on the strain that you get too. Okay. There's strains like the Afghani that branch out straight from the bottom, or at least my Afghani one that I had from Sensi Seed Bank. It branched out from the bottom. My NL5s grew a little bit closer together. But yeah, basically you only want 4 or 5 main branches on there. The problem I see today is all these people that defoliate their plants. I think they defoliate them way too much. And why do you want to take off the sugar factories off your plant? Your plant lives off the sugars that are produced during the day and everything else. Why do you want to limit that, especially when you're trying to add mass and triclones to your flowers? You know, you need to leave some of that on there, but if it's covering up a big branch and a nice cole underneath, by all means, take that leaf off.
Yeah, same thing. I did both those things. I the only deleafing I would do would to make way of other branches trying to peek through, and if it, and this was literally like contact. There's other, fan leaves that'll stick up and you look underneath it and there's a little bit of gap. It's not totally laying on top of the next bud underneath it, but then there's other ones where it's pushing up underneath through that, trying to push up through that leaf. So I do get rid of those. But
those make perfect clones.
Yeah.
And people always need clones, and you can give them away. People really enjoy free clones, and they're just waste product to you. They take 1 minute to put in a rock wool cube and 7 to 10 days to get them to root. They're nothing, and you can do it off on the side.
But the sugar and the hormones that are in those larger leaves, I did always think this is something that I had no idea to, analyze based on. I never did full defoliation like a lot of people do. And I also, like I said, because of that, never got to see a difference between habits that I had and ways that I would manicure the plant versus experimental ways of doing it that way. But I always thought, because I was in an organic situation in a super soil or amended soil mixture, and I would time it to where the plant that's growing in that pot, the final pot that I dropped it in after transplant, with the maybe 1 or 2 weeks time veg before I trigger it, and the 2 to 3 weeks, really fast growth period or stretch, that's when most of its food would die out, maybe a week past. So I would get a lot of fade. And I, like I said, I wouldn't do lots of defoliation. So a lot of those really big, larger leaves would get fully faded, go yellow, red, orange, black, purple, whatever color they ended up being. And then being able to just take off the plant very easily, to where it was almost like I did 75% wet trim on that plant. I was only actually dry trimming, right up close to the flower by the time it got done hang drying before I put it in the jars. So
before I take anything into the drying, before anything actually leaves my flowering room to be put in dark for 48 hours, anything that doesn't have a triclone on it gets pulled off or cut off. I'm cutting off until I hit the sugar part of the leaf, and then I hang it up. I'm one of those people that I don't take my leaves off because they have tons of crystals on them. They have tons of triclones. Why do I want to take that off and give you this nice trimmed up hairy bud that every time you touch it, you're destroying the terpenes in it and you're destroying the triclones on it? Those sugar leaves, just grind those right up. You'll never taste a difference in them. You're grinding them with flour, go ahead and smoke them. They're just as potent as the rest of the flour.
It was very easy for me to discern that. And a lot of this comes with just the way you handle a plant that's been hang drying or that you intend to hang dry. a lot of just, being too rough on the plant. Is just saw something as being weird, and then taking those leaves off that you said that have crystal on them, right? I always
Yeah,
discerned that there was a very fast warning sign to me leaving things intact, and then me roughing things up too much unintentionally. It's kind of like,
that's the whole thing. Why do you want to screw something up? I don't. The plant's
when
growing perfectly fine. It's healthy, I ain't touching it.
when
Let
you
it grow.
when you zoom in on a photo that you're trying to take, you use a lot of zoom, and then any movement that you make is just totally distorting that picture. The same thing is when you're trying to get detailed and detailed and detailed of a trim with scissors, right? Those tiny little movements that you're making on the scale of those trichomes on the bud are like an earthquake, right? And that's to the point now where there's improvised with, branded trim trays, where people know that you're gonna be so unintentionally breaking off trichomes off of your dried flowers that you need to have a screen on the tray that you're trimming over to utilize, or capitalize on the trichomes that you're knocking off the flower.
Now, don't get me wrong, if because there are times where you do grow too much and it takes time to trim, so they do get a little bit dry. I found going to a silk screen shop and buying some of their nylon 110 micron, going to Walmart, and they've got this 1.5 foot wide tub that's about 32 inches long, and putting duct tape on it and using that as a tray to catch the triclones. I showed that box. I actually make those boxes, but that's to keep underneath the coffee table. The other ones when you're doing big projects. But yeah, always keep those triclones, even when you're rolling a joint. Try to do it over some type of screen. What you're losing there over a month, you're gonna pull 2-3 grams of keef off of there every month. And you'll look at it and go, wow, I got some really crystallized pot, man.
Those are hash plants shouting for your attention too, if you're going to be breeding plants, right? If we're having
If you're breeding a hash plant, you're breeding that hash plant basically for the male, or you're looking to make hash. Just like what has been said constantly, you're going to find just earth tones in those. They're going to be very bland on the terpene tastes. But usually if you're growing a hash plant, you want to cross it into something, or you're going to end up keeping it, washing it, turning it into concentrate. Today's people want something with flavor. I see this coming on with mushrooms, and I see people reverting back to the old hazes, something that gives you a head high. But these hazes take 120 days to finish flowering. You can get your super silver haze, but that's still an 80-90 day plant.
Yeah, 11 weeks the minimum.
Yeah, 11 weeks minimum. All the plants that I grow, I take between 65 and 80 days. And if I'm doing seed, I'll take them an extra 30 days past when I think they're done. And honestly, when I do that, I believe I get more females. And back in the 90s, that's how we were getting feminized seeds, is we were letting the plants flower to 160 and 180 days. And that's when we found out that those female seeds showed up. We didn't really use colloidal silver. That was one of those things that were coming out. And you can also, if you really want to do it, use eggshells and vinegar. Let it soak for a while. You can use that too. But, SDS and colloidal silver with a little bit of GA3, gibberellic acid, works great. Because we do need to somewhat protect the genetics that we put out.
Yeah, I always think with those, the haze type effects, or that, I don't know if it's exclusive to all equatorial, or maybe it's hybridized equatorial in the case of haze, that it does that to you. But what kind of people, if it's, me and you and maybe people watching this show that kind of crave that, or what that could do to, newer, younger smokers today. And I kind of thought of that earlier, and I haven't in a few years, like time progresses, there's people older and younger than both of us, and we get to hear everyone's story about different things on the show. So when you listen to someone, I haven't heard a lot of people really describe the type of highs that I think me and you got to experience from modern strains. Even if it was their very first experience, or maybe they don't have the high tolerance yet, but I haven't heard people say like, oh, I smoked gelato and thought me and my car's friend we were on fire inside the car, like crazy weed paranoia hallucinations. I haven't heard that from young kids using modern strains that they buy from dispensaries today.
Well, to actually tell you the truth, I use an Afghani mango cross that was made in the early 2000s. And that, ever since I lost my seed collection and everything else, I've turned to that and the UK cheese for my pain relief. UK cheese has a little bit more of a THC to it, so it's hitting about 20-21%, where my Afghani is 18.5 basically. Those highs are great, but I had to go to the UK cheese because the Afghani mango, if I have to catch an airplane at 4 or 5 p.m. and I smoke that shit at 9 a.m., it brings on panic attacks now for me and anxiety attacks. So, I'm always looking for something to replace the nerve pain, but not, and give me that narcotic feeling, but not give me those anxiety attacks. And for the past 8 years, really, if you were to smoke something with me, unless it was something really special that I wanted you to try, there were usually 2 or 3 different strains in there to get the effects that I want from the different strains and different terpenes that are collected. My friend here in Thailand just gave away 300 bottles to a governor. And those 300 bottles are made up from 15 different strains. So that's like one of the most complete tinctures that we've ever put together. And we're doing this here in Thailand. We don't have laboratories. I can't take a plant and flower down to the corner testing company. I got to take mine to the university. I am lucky enough to have a university that will run my soil samples, my water samples. They'll run my potency samples. They'll run to tell me at 3-4 weeks if the plant's going to be male or female. But actually, I have to go try to help them with the machinery because they don't know how to run these tests yet. They don't know the baselines like we do back in the States. And a lot of times, especially dealing with these professors, I get, you're a Westerner. This is Thailand. You don't know how to grow cannabis in Thailand. And, I was watching a show the other night and Bodie was on. And Bodie even made the comment because someone asked him about Thailand, Thai weed. And if you listen to what Bodie says, it's really funny. And he said this back in 2017. He says Thai weed could be really good if you can find finished flower. Thailand and Thai people don't understand triclones. They don't understand that you need to have a nice big flower. They think because of their culture that basically the leaf is what they want. So as soon as that bud starts to form and those leaves come together, that's usually when all the cannabis is harvested, and that's a month and a half to 2 months away.
They're treating it like broccoli.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It gets to a certain point. Well, back in the States now, you have these places, and I've watched them, and they say, well, it doesn't matter what it is, we cut it at 48 days. Well, I found if you cut things early, you're not going to get the total effect, and you're just going to get the THC high. You're not going to get that stone where if you took it that extra 2 weeks, that really comes into the plant. And I really think that, unless you're using something like what was brought up by AB the other day, the AK-47, the reason why I got 47 is because it finished in 47 days. My Afghani 1 could be done in 48 days. It could be done in 52 days. But I tell you what, taking it to 62 days was dead nut on. I mean, that was a 2-hour high for me off 3 hits in the morning off of a bong. And that was 6, 8, 10 months later. We don't get those strains anymore. You new guys out there, and I'm going to call you new, and everybody up there in Michigan and California, you're going after all these bottleneck genetics, and, you guys can do that. Let me play with the building blocks that made that. And, let me pull the old terpenes out of our older strains. And why don't you give those a try? Because they're not as concentrated on THC. And you may find out that you prefer strains that are between 15, 16% CBD and or THC and 20, 21% THC. The 30, 32% THCs don't do it for me. It doesn't give me the effect. During my accident, I lost my taste and sense of smell. So it makes me a perfect person for cause and effect. And that's what I've really specialized in is cause and effect, chronic nerve pain, and seizures. These all take CBDs and they all take THC. The CBDs, they have done tests, and now if THC is not present with the CBDs last for a longer period of time. They don't recycle through the body as quickly because the THC actually opens up more receptors for CBDs. It's like going from a little wire to a big cable as far as the flow goes. And it allows the CBDs to actually last longer. And when I talk THC, I'm not talking a lot. I figure it's between 3 and 4%. My Canatonic is 3.5% THC. It gives you that little bit of psychedelic, that little bit of psych before the CBDs really start working for the inflammation, the hands, the knees, and things like that. And this is what causes people to feel better. You know, there's a small percentage of people out there, and I do mean a small percentage. I don't care what the tests say. Only CBDs work for maybe 10, 12% of the people. A lot of the time it's psychological.
So what I think is, like I said, with those strains that you were talking about that people don't have the effect of, and maybe what doesn't make sense is, the fear mongering. And this is something, I don't know when they started saying this, maybe you can help. But when the fear mongering began with these strains that are over 20% THC, gotta watch out for, there's there's marijuana today that's over 20% THC, which I heard, growing up a lot. And now I'm already past the point in age now where they're claiming 30 and beyond percent THC. So you would think if that fear mongering is true, then what I said, like with my experiences that I've had with weed that I know for sure, definitely probably, well, actually I do know for sure, because like I said, I had with Subcool's Vortex experiences that led me to really want to take growing serious, to not just be reliant on, maybe I get good weed and I find a bag seed in it and it makes me want to grow it. But I found this weed now, it has the best effect I've ever had from cannabis. I want to track down the seeds because I don't want to live life without it, that kind of effect. And I actually know now that Vortex, it tests between 17 and 19% THC. So it's not 30%. Yeah.
And with the effects that you're getting off of that is coming from the terpenes.
Right.
This is something that 20 years ago we didn't understand. 15 years ago we didn't understand. 10 years ago, yeah, that's really when things started pushing that 25%. That's when Jamie came out with the Canatonic. And the Canatonic could range from 16%, 18% CBD with no THC to 18, 20% THC and very little CBDs in it. So, we have these plants out there that today we are finding that it's the terpenes that are affecting us. The THC gives us the psychological effect, but it's the terpenes that are giving us more of the medicine, I believe. And this is what's really nice is all those fuckers in laboratories will never be able to recreate the cannabis plant in a laboratory. At least not for the next 30 to 40 years, I don't think, because every strain is too complex and there's too many micronutrients in the plant that go to all work together.
Where I get a lot of terpene knowledge from is a professor that one of his things during his lectures changes amounts depending on when he's doing a lecture. I think it started at 10 and maybe it moved up to 15 or beyond 20. He busts different myths in essential oils. And a lot of them is that there's lab replicated profiles of essential oils, basically. Like how right now there's companies that make plant derived and synthetically derived, OG Kush terpenes. It's the terpene expression of OG Kush, except it didn't come from OG Kush, the cannabis plant. It came from non-cannabis derived, either through other essential oils, organically or synthetically derived. And he talks
And
about,
if you go to Europe and you go to the flea markets in the United States, they have people mixing up those terpenes to make your perfume there. But they may get the smell and the taste of it, but are they getting the full effect
Well,
that
that's what
was
I mean.
actually in the plant?
He analyzes stuff. That's where what he does mostly is analyze other people's to certify them for organic and non-adulterated. So
Okay,
what he's looking for and what he's explaining is that it's impossible to do because the more and more sophisticated you have as a testing apparatus, maybe if you go in a very, low budget testing apparatus, you're finding 10 different components, right? Down to anything that comes up to more than 0.1% of its makeup of that pie chart. And then you increase the amount that you can attest, and then you find stuff that's like 0.00.1 constituents of what's there. And it keeps going beyond and beyond that to where you think that you have a terpene, you have essential oil terpene profile that you think there's 10 constituents of, but really there's actually hundreds. There's actually in between 150 and 200 different compounds that make up that essential oil. So lab made, you can never mix and, titrate little itty bitty components of, tiny quantities of these mixtures of essential oils to replicate, spot on what a OG Kush terpene profile could be. There's no way that you could mix up in a vial those minute components, because
exactly. That's why we'll always need growers.
right. Yeah. So I just say
Because
that there's companies out there selling that. So I just want to say buyer be wary if you're out there looking for those.
Yeah,
Not gonna
there's
get
one company in the United States that if I was to buy terpenes off of, I think I'd buy them from them. And I don't remember the name of the company. All I remember, I believe they're on the West Coast.
Is it True Terpenes?
That would be it. There we
Okay.
go.
There we go.
See, even
that's what I'm
simple
saying.
things lose my mind.
Well, I'm gonna have people from there coming, sending me hate messages if I keep bringing it up. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's people there claiming that they'll replicate,
They can replicate the taste and the smell, but they can't replicate the effects that goes along with it because they'll never get all those chemicals right.
It's our noses are just as good as those machines that they use to test with, right? You can smell skunks based on their smell from like a mile away, right? Supposedly a dog's nose is the same exact way with its owner. Same as, if you, not talking about other people's grows 30 years, 30, 40 years ago that you're smelling in the neighborhood, but actual skunk, the proximity that our nose can detect that supposedly is equivalent to our dogs being able to sense us, smell us in proximity. So,
well, I'll tell you one thing. My friends here in Thailand, they know if I'm at a certain place because they can smell me 40, 50, 60, 80 feet away because my cannabis smells completely different than Thai cannabis. You also have to understand that during harvest season, yes, it does get cold up here, but when you're finishing it out, we're in the 90s and 100 degrees, and those terpenes are getting burnt off except for the ones that are clear in the bud. So unless you grow indoor, you're not really going to get those great terpene profiles. And everybody, talks about Thailand this, Thailand that. You pick up the lemons, you pick up the citrus. I pick up the citrus in them. The highest THC I found has been 11.5%. And, reverting back to the Bodhi one I watched last night, we were talking about the psychedelic effects of cannabis. which is normally found in the Asian, the Himalayan strains in Nepal and things like that.
I just want to
In
interject
6
real
years,
fast.
I've only found one.
I want to interject real fast. I want to let you continue, but I have to turn my heat on and use the bathroom, and I didn't know that Eagle was going to let us continue on. So I have to take care of one or two things that'll give me, if you give me like 5
Well,
minutes.
I actually have some things I have to take because it's the middle of the day for me. Matter of fact, it's 4:20.
Oh,
But
nice.
I just wanted to stop in, and because you had made a couple comments, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents. That's all.
I do, if I really meant it. I mean, like I said, when I was watching your interview, I don't know if you follow Breeder Steve, but I thought of the same of
Yeah,
him.
Breeder Steve's a man.
Yeah, I thought of him in Colombia, and it reminded me of your situation there in Thailand. And it really actually made me honestly think, where could I be in 20 years? Can I be on the Canary Islands or some African country growing acreage because the laws get to change? It made me optimistic.
Exactly. And, I haven't grown here in Thailand since I've been here, because I moved to Thailand not knowing they were going medical. Within 3 months, they passed the medical. All my Thai friends, my Thai cop friends, my Thai military friends, everybody was pissed because I had a Michigan medical card, which made me legal before any Thais in the country. Now, I do have a Thai medical permit. And, are you willing to take that risk of moving someplace, especially out of the country, if you don't move to a Western European country that actually understands English? You move to like Asia, and, very little is understood. So, are you willing to live that solitude lifestyle for a while longer to reach your dreams? I happen to be working with Mr. Cannabis of Thailand. He's from California. His name is Ryan Duran, and you can look him up. Matter of fact, this past week, he released the most expensive soil in Thailand. But it has copper, it has boron, it has the 15 different micronutrients all in this soil that he puts out. Hopefully here soon, because we had a discussion. I'm a salt person. I grow with salt, peat, cow shit, a little bit of black earth, and perlite. So I'm a salt person. And I'm going hopefully to be putting out a salt line here that will be an A and B for your veg and your flowering. And then there's probably going to be 3 different bottles that are going to have micronutrients and your amino acids in it. And I'm hoping to put out 5 bottles, and I'll send you a bag of liquefied seaweed concentrate. And hopefully I can get it between $250 and $300 for something that you would go to Advanced Nutrients and buy 15 different gallons and get 90+% inert water in these gallons. And you're paying $100, $125, $250 for a gallon of what? A couple micronutrients, because they bought this company called Nitron, and they took all their micronutrients in this $15 quart, and they broke it up into all these different bottles. So, I have a thing here. We're not doing this for money. Actually, we're setting up Thailand's largest farmers collective to grow CBDs and hemp. That way we can get the farmers together and actually get them to pool their crops together so we can get better money for it. You have to understand that an English teacher, a Western English teacher here in Thailand, only make $1,000 a month. Your farmer may make a couple $1,000s a month. So when you're looking at living on $100, $200 a month, this is a very poor country. You're not going to come here and make money. And that's kind of what the Thai government did, is they sold the people on, well, we'll let you grow X amount of plants, you sell them back to the government, and we'll pay you X amount. The trouble is they're not telling people how to grow, how to get to finish. The seeds, from what I hear, just plain hemp seeds from the Thai government are $3 a piece.
Wow.
And the CBDs are more like $10 a piece to $15 a piece. We're doing this large project, and they asked us the other day, well, we have 5 strains of CBDs here in Thailand to grow, and these are the ones that are certified. And they asked us the other day, well, how many seeds do you need? And we looked at them and we said, 1 million. And they looked at us like we were fucking nuts. And we had to explain to them that even taking 20,000 or 200,000 seeds of one variety, we're going to have to go through and pheno hunt. They don't understand. They think you can put a seed in the ground and, you know, just plant it and it's going to be a monocrop. No, you're going to have plants that are going to be 8, 10 feet tall, and then you're going to have plants that are going to be 3 and 4 feet tall. It depends on what they go for in the genetic part of when they were made. You know, these people, they don't understand. They think you can put a seed in the ground and it'll grow. There's no CBDs that grow naturally between the 20th parallels. Not that we've found. Now, I did hear of one that was found in Colombia that had CBDs in it, but you're looking at a unicorn.
Is there any well it wasn't influenced by modern genetics?
That could be possibly. It could have been crossed by an Afghani that was taken to South America and Mexico back in the 70s and 80s. Just like Cambodia, when I go there, my friends get me a tired out skunk. Yeah, it puts the high on, and it's a lot better than the other stuff that they have. But, you know, that's $12 US for a half ounce. But I still take my cannabis to Cambodia. I take my cannabis all over the world with me because it's my medicine, and I ain't gonna get stuck someplace like Thailand where I actually start drinking 1 to 2 drinks a night because their cannabis just wasn't doing it. It was getting me high for 30 minutes. And that cannabis is actually coming from Laos. Very little bit of cannabis is actually here in Thailand. And like I said, they don't finish here in Thailand. So the plants are all immature and they're really not worth selling.
Well, back to what you said about the commitment is to me, earlier I would think, you know, maybe I'm not ready for it yet, but I almost feel like there's a certain situation to where the quicker it happens, the more, the shorter adjustment period I'll have, versus if the more comfortable I get in a one spot, you know, it's going to make me really uncomfortable being thrown into that type situation.
Now, if you're moving it into a place, I would suggest getting a can filter right away. I would suggest
Yep.
getting all your lights, all your
Sure.
equipment together. And the moment you move into that place, you hook up that 1,000 watt, even if there's no plants underneath it. You want to build a guideline, a baseline of electrical use. This is something that we used back in the old days because they were looking for the spikes. I was building grow rooms in 97 because in 97, they were still going down the streets with thermal imaging guns. And I found this little thing called roofer's lead. And if you line your room in roofer's lead, the heat signature doesn't get out of the house.
Mhm.
So once you become comfortable with living a more solitude life, then get
You
into
perform
growing
it.
cannabis. It's all in the mindset. If you don't have the mindset, after 6, 8 months, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Because you kind of have to understand, you know, like you said, you get your own place, numbers go out the window. Yeah, you tell me to plant 6 plants, I hear 60. You know, because I enjoy the spice of life. I enjoy, if you come to my house in Ohio before they stole everything, I had 26 strains there as in my head stash. And I always kept between 16 and 20 strains because I need those different effects. And all of them basically gave me different effects. And I do have some psychological issues, and that's why I like my fruit strains and my, you know, my cherries, my blueberries, things
Yeah.
like that, because those terpenes seem to make me happy. They take away the depression, the anxiety, and the earth flavors and the gas flavors help with the uptake of opiates, and they give you that opiate narcotic feeling. And those are the strains that I use to help get people off of like heroin, Oxycontin, morphine, methadone, shit like that. And if that don't work, then I take them straight to RSO.
Yeah, I'm wired the same way. I definitely, it's somewhere between the woody and skunky hashiness to where those are the most immediate and most effective. And I don't know if it was earlier today already on this stream or another conversation I was having with my buddies earlier today, where we were talking about the weed that hits you in the face. You know, where you feel it in your cheeks or behind your eyes or on your forehead. You know, that kind of
See,
effect.
that's the one I was talking about when I talk about these old hazes and the mushroom craze that's coming on. You're going to want people, and you know, it may take a couple years, but you're going to find the people that are more intellectual, people that think are really going to be these people that are going to want those old hazes again. And you know what? Those old hazes, they're still going to bring 100, 125 a quarter because you just explained to the person it took me 120 days to get it to here. You're not getting a total body tingle from it. The high is all up here in the top part of your head, behind your eyes.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it gives you that permanent smile and the giggles.
Mhm. Yep.
But you're there mentally. You're not zoned out someplace, like on an Afghani or
Right.
something heavy.
Yeah, I'm less and less. And even when you're that, when you have the glued on smile, like I said, even if you need to be, it doesn't mess up any type of productivity, the stuff. I don't like being couch locked. I'm over that effect for it. There, it has its time and its place when it comes to me needing it as like a pain reliever in that case. But general purpose, I want the more. I want the more
Well,
psychoactive.
that's what I found out with the UK cheese and the extra THC in it. Now, if you were sitting on a couch for a period of time, yeah, it would couch lock you. But if you sat in your chair, smoked that, and got up, that extra THC in there, that Northern Lights kicks in. Because I really think that's what the UK was crossed with, was that Northern Lights. And you get that upper high and that energetic high. But even if you go out and do something for an hour or 2 hours and come and sit, you know, that couch lock is going to come back a little bit if that high's still with you. My highs only stay for maybe an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half. It comes from smoking really good cannabis for 25 years. You know, there's been many years ago that I've had to smoke commercial and brick weed until I got to Thailand. And when I got to Thailand, I said, okay, good thing I brought pot with me. And I've been sending hash from Europe for 20 some years, and I know how to get my flower here, thank God. And without the help of friends back at home, I'd be shit out of luck because Western medicine isn't here. And like I said, you know, for the gas flavors helping with the uptake of opiates, yes, I still have to take opiates for my nerve pain, because my nerve pain just never goes away. It's a constant chronic pain. And without that, I would die, because here in Thailand, if I go to the hospital, they'll give me fentanyl, which is one of the 6 medications in the United States that relieve nerve pain. And I come here, and if I want to enjoy a night's sleep, I have to go to a hospital, or they'll give me morphine, which does nothing but take an edge off of it. And, you know, I'm honest with my doctors, and I tell them I take it 1 time a night. Why? Because, you know, you're only giving me a small amount, and I need to take that whole day's supply at 1 time. And I do that later in the evening, right around the 5, 6 o'clock area. Because if I take it any longer, those time released medications that they have out there can keep me up all night. I'm really affected by the speed that's in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why I turned to cannabis. Besides that, all those pills destroyed my stomach. And I'd rather smoke some herb and take a little bit of RSO and smoke a little bit of hash. And yeah, it may be hurting my lungs. And one of the reasons I moved to Thailand is because I come from Ohio and Michigan, and my parents being antique dealers. I was laying on a cold metal floor van or in the back of a pickup truck as we drove in 30, 40, 20 degree weather, going to an antique show on the East Coast. And that fluid built up in my lungs. And with my accident, my sinuses don't drain to my stomach, they drain to my lungs. That's why you'll see me coughing all the time. My father also has it too. And I've just been diagnosed with COPD. But you know, I'm close to 50 now, and I figure 62 is about as far as I can go. And I'm not going to give up the cigarettes. I'm not going to give up what I have in life. I haven't gone to I've gone to the bar one time in 2 weeks, basically to have a change. And I haven't had a drink in 2 weeks. Before I came to Thailand, I had maybe 4 or 5 drinks the whole year. But because of the cannabis here, I needed the alcohol. And you know, that kind of helps out when you're moving from Michigan, Ohio to a different climate like Thailand when you have urination problems. You know, 1 glass of alcohol a night, whiskey, like a bourbon, you know, that takes care of that. You know, I'm still looking for those natural plants that will take care of that. The kratom is now legal here in Thailand, and Thailand has the most potent kratom in Asia. And there's not only the narcotic feeling to that, but there's also that little bit of speed, like you just chewed some cocoa leaves.
That they're either
the red stem.
Yeah, the red stem. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's one forest left that the Thai government didn't take out, and it's down in the south. I've already donated to that because there's a group of villagers that are actually replanting that forest because people were going in there and stripping the leaves off the tree. And it's actually a tree. It's not a bush or anything, it's a tree. And, you know, they're taking saplings and they're replanting that because they've realized that that red strain is something special and it's only in Thailand. But that's something I'm looking to take over the opiate side of what I have to take still.
Yeah, what you said with you and your dad. My dad has COPD. It kind of freaks me out a little bit too.
To tell you the truth, it really freaks me out because I had a friend that helps me out and sends me a care package every month and a half, 2 months, because I still smoke Seneca cigarettes from the Seneca Indian tribe. But she was up at my parents' house the other day in Cleveland and during Easter time. And my family doesn't talk about medical conditions. And, you know, I had to get from her that, you know, my dad does a couple things and he's winded. And I call up my dad and, oh yeah, everything's fine. And I say, you sure about that? You sure you're not doing a couple things and getting winded? And he comes up and he goes, yeah, I'm actually having a really hard time this year. And being stuck in Thailand and not going to be able to get a vaccine here for probably 3 to 4 months is really tough for me. Because yeah, I do want to be back at home, but this undereducated, overqualified person is finally getting paid. So I need to spend my time here.
Yeah.
You know, us cannabis smokers, like, you know, when you got the year charge, you can't go work in someone's grow facility. You can't work in a dispensary, but you're the most qualified.
Yeah.
What the hell is up with that? You know, us pot smokers and growers are the most qualified to run these facilities.
Like,
and you get people out of college that have grown 1 or 2 plants here and there. You know, I put in 32 straight harvests every month. So you're going to tell me you can grow better than me? You know more about the plant than me? I get that here in Thailand because I don't have a piece of paper from a university and they don't want to talk to me. Yeah. I offered them up my CBD collection. And all I asked for, and I'd also told them I'd teach them and I'd teach a class All I asked for was a research and development permit, the land, and I would put my own buildings and greenhouses on it, and they turned me down. That university's garden has failed 3 years in a row because
Yeah.
they just don't want to listen. They think they know everything because they're professors.
Between those type of people in white lab coats, and then you have the next tier down, which are people that have some money from some other venture that they have, and now they want to get in the cannabis industry. And then you have the celebrity endorsement people. So it's just really hard to get what I would call, like I said, more qualified people to do it.
Yeah. When I moved to Thailand, I was, you do have to understand a couple hours away from me is the original owner of Nirvana Seeds. Until he passed away, Neville was a 5-6 hour airplane ride away. Dronkers is the same thing for me. Basically I came to Thailand, and with my knowledge and knowing what I can do, I was put in the top 5 people in Thailand. More and more people are coming to Thailand from the Western countries, and they think they're going to make money here. And unless you're doing it like me and my partner for the people, we know the money's going to come eventually, but it's not going to come right away. But all these people coming over here, and I've turned down $250,000 jobs in Michigan because I think I'm more happy here. To give you a little insight, I didn't mention this the other day when Eagle asked about, really going to the different countries. It's hard with the different languages and things like that. I live in a city that in northern Thailand that has 70,000 people in it, and I don't see a cop after 6 p.m.
Mhm.
I like driving fast. I'm from Ohio and Michigan. And yeah, they have speed limits here, but they don't know how to recalibrate the speed guns, so they don't use them.
Do you have a Corvette or Mustang crated out there for you?
Actually, when I was at home, I sold my 68 Vet. I
Nice.
have a bike. I have a bike here, and I have a 4-wheel drive. They're both used. An older Toyota Sport 4x4 because I need to be out in the fields. But yeah, I ride a small Honda 6 or 500, and that's what I was out on this morning. Or I would have caught the show a little bit earlier. It's something great to go through the mountains up here on.
Yeah, I watch a lot of travel vlogs, and someone did a motorbike thing. It was through Vietnam, not Thailand, but seemed really cool.
I was supposed to go to Vietnam last March 22nd, I was to leave. And March 18th, they said, we're closing the borders on the 27th. No more airfare, no more flights anywhere in the country, even. So they basically locked us down from the end of March until the end of June. Because I had to wait to go back to Bangkok in June because Valentine's Day, I got hit by a drunk driver on my bike doing about 35 kilometers an hour. And he was doing about the same. And it screwed up my knee. I had to have complete knee reconstructed surgery. I went to the second best hospital in Bangkok. I have to pay for it out of my pocket. Then the government reimburses me. I paid $12,500 for a complete knee replacement surgery by the head of orthopedics at this hospital. I had my gallbladder out in 16, and that was 2,800 US dollars. And that doctor, I spent 2 hours talking about Mr. Lester Greenspoon because he went to Harvard. So I'm in Thailand being treated by Harvard trained doctors for literally pennies on the dollar what it would cost me in the United States. My knee surgery would have cost me $350,000 easy. So, you know, you have to outweigh things too when you move to these far off countries. My 3-bedroom house is $117 a month. I got my water bill the other day. It was under $2. My electric bill, I run an air conditioner in my bedroom, and eventually I'll be moving this into my bedroom because it's about 100 degrees here in my living room. But I run the air conditioner all the time. I run the fans in my house all the time. And my electric is not over $30. I've been told by my friend who is Thai government. I asked him, well, what if I use like 5, 6,000, 10,000 watts in my house? You know what he told me? Don't worry about it, but call the electric company so they can put a new transformer outside your house.
Wow.
Yeah, don't worry about your electrical use. We're not looking for that. They're not looking for indoor growers here. They're more considered about the yaba dealers and all that meth coming in, because I can buy for $1, I could buy almost 4 yaba pills.
How,
But
when was
for
was this-
$15, I can only get 10 grams of cannabis.
what happened to make it so acceptable? Was it always like that in Thailand, or
What, the meth?
no, not the meth, but I mean, was it like, we're not going to do
If you get
cannabis?
caught over here without a medical card smoking a joint because flowers are not legal, you are going to jail
So that's, I mean,
unless you pay off.
they look at it like the only thing that makes it not okay is it's illegal. Like a lot of people here, straight edge people, weed's illegal. That's why they're not going to do anything with it. But tomorrow, if they change the laws, they'd go out to a dispensary and buy weed for the first time because it's not illegal now. So now they don't have to worry about going to jail. Is that the kind
Exactly. And Thailand is taking that exact route.
of?
If you look at the Thai law does include THC, but the Thai government has only approved it for CBDs, and they've only approved it through concentrate. Now, why would you only approve CBDs through concentrate and not the flower? Because if you let them use the flower, then 3 people don't get to make money off of it. It doesn't go to this person, to the extractor, and then finally to the wholesaler and retailer.
Yeah.
So it's basically, we're going to legalize this flower that anybody can pick, dry out, and use. And you can only use it through concentrate, which you have to pay for. My next fight is to allow flower and the correct letter of the law for THC, because concentrates for me take between 30 minutes and an hour and a half, 2 hours to kick in. Smoking a joint, I get the feeling within 1, 2, 3 minutes. So that is something that I'm going to really be pushing for cancer patients, chronic pain patients, and also seizure patients. But we also have to teach the doctors about the terpenes and the different effects and what they actually help. And that's the biggest thing, is there's not a cannabis culture here in Thailand like the United States. So all this craft cannabis, yeah, it brings big money here, but I'm not going to grow cookies here. I'm not going to grow certain strains of OG because they hit 90, 100 degrees and they hermaphrodite.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going for that shit. So I'm not going to grow any cookies or anything like that.
It's
I'm
a really
looking
good
for-
filter where you're at for that. You know, you're gonna find the ones that work pretty fast. You know, the ones that don't cut it will have to be eliminated. You know, there's going to be very hard to grow outdoors, you know, other than indoor situation. Especially, like I said, if you got to run an air conditioning fan constantly and you got 10,000 watts, then you're probably going to also in indoor situations have to kiss those OGs and other ones goodbye too. So
Yeah, you have, if you want your top quality cannabis, you have to grow it indoors.
Yeah.
I moved to Thailand, and the first time I heard someone using an air conditioner in their drying room, I was like, really? And they said, yeah, here in Thailand, you turn on your air conditioner to take the moisture out of your plants after harvest. And I'm like, wow, that blows my mind. But, I'll be using big humidity here in Thailand for my grows. And yes, I'll have indoor grows, but most of mine are going to be outdoor and hoop nets and things like that, and big greenhouses. I have to produce clones, and I'm going to be turning whole greenhouses into a big humidity dome. My veg, I basically won't have to water a lot of my veg because we have mister units, and in those greenhouses we're 85, 90, 95% humidity all the time. Once it hits October, I don't see rain from October until just the other night it poured heavy. But basically April 1st, everything here in Thailand starts to re-veg. So if you don't harvest by the 1st of April, your plants are just going to go back into vegetative state. But I have from August until April as a flowering time.
Holy shit.
So I can do 160, 180 day plants, but if you give me a 60-day plant, I can get 3 harvests in.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that temperature is in the mid 80s, 70s, and dropping down into the low 60s, 50s at night.
That's about as long as I've heard it. I've heard of one person's variety going 195 days. It's the longest plant I've heard. So you could grow that there, right?
Yeah, I could keep it indoors for 30 days and then put it outside and finish it at the 1st of April.
Wow.
And that from October to the 1st of April, I'll take it back. It rained 4 times for about 15 minutes each, and that was it. So the only thing we have to fight is a little bit of the cold and the moisture that gets in the plants at that time. By 7, 8 o'clock is dried out because it's already 70 degrees, 80 degrees from 50 within a couple hours.
Yep. It's like the winters back in Colorado Springs, even if it snowed 2 inches at night, and the next day it's blue skies, sunny, 50 degrees, all the snow melts. So
yep, go out skiing with no jacket. That was the funnest thing in the world. Well, Red Pill, it's been a really good time. I appreciate Eagle and everybody. I know
Hell
you
yeah.
have to run that real quick thing, and I have to go and try to get some things done and some food.
Yep.
So it was great talking with you and everybody out in chat. I hope some of the people out there stayed with us. I don't have my computer or chat open. I have to use my phone. I hope you enjoyed our little conversation here. It was great talking with you. You know, people, keep it simple. That KISS thing, you know, keep it simple, stupid. The more you complicate, the more you're gonna fuck it up.
Thank you,
So,
Captain 420. Thank you for hopping in here, and big shout outs to Eagle for letting us have this extended little chat.
yes,
Yeah.
many shots out to Eagle, and thank you for staying on and talking with me today. It
I'll do it.
makes a big difference. I
Mhm.
don't get to talk to too many Western speakers because I live in a village and they don't understand English,
No,
which is
I'll do
perfect
that.
for a pot grower because no one talks to you.
I like being able to do that. I'll take advantage of that anytime. I mean, if you want to, if we're talking across the planet, I
Sure.
enjoy that. I like I said, I'll take it as a blessing that we have the ability to use the internet for this purpose right now. Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
by the way, people, this beautiful tie-dye behind me, that is my work. I like
Nice.
fractals.
My mind was kind of going to this whole time. I'm looking at it almost looks naturistic. It almost looks like you got some kind of, giant portrait window pointing to the forest behind you. I'm getting lost in it.
Cool. I'm glad you enjoy it because I enjoy my colors.
Yeah.
But you have a wonderful morning and a great tomorrow, and we'll see you all tomorrow night.
Yep, for sure. Thank you.
Peace.
Peace. All right, guys. I think I'm out here too. And let me see if I can actually get this thing right. I hope when I sign off, it just ends the stream. Okay, so I'll come back here and try to figure it out if when I close this down, it doesn't end. But as Eagle would say, do something nice for someone, guys. Random acts of kindness save lives. Do something nice for someone. Anytime that opportunity presents itself and you kind of see someone struggling or someone needs help, or you can do something to cheer someone up and make someone's day, then just if you sense that, then go for it and do it. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you, Eagle, for letting us do this and let me close it out tonight. So peace out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.